Chapter 2671. 2671 never expected this, right? Chapter 2671. 2671 never expected this, right? 2671 never expected this, right? Qin Shuang yelled in pain. The damage this attack caused to him was truly too great. However, Ling Han's offensive did not end at that. Ling Han raised his left hand, and Z9-colored light flickered as he pressed his palm down on Qin Shuang. Qin Shuang was already no longer capable of changing his course, so he could only take this strike head-on. Clang! His palm landed, and Qin Shuang's whole person exploded. The might of this strike was in no way inferior to the slash from the divine demon sword. Ling Han panted, but his movements did not pause. Picking up his sword, he continued his pursuit. Qin Shuang had indeed been blasted quite badly, his whole person torn into pieces. However, his head was still complete, so he did not die. For celestial kings, this was not a fatal injury. As long as Qin Shuang was given some time, he would be able to regrow his limbs and recover his battle prowess very quickly. Ling Han had used the 9 transformations divine scroll in the first strike, increasing his battle prowess countless times over, and he had channeled the 5 elements lightning technique in his second strike. Though he had not channeled the 2 heavenly Venerate techniques at the same time, the gap between his use of them was really too short, so it still caused his blood to bubble and made him feel very terrible. But now was not the time for rest. He should take the chance to follow up on his attack and kill his enemy in a single stroke. How was a head going to compete with Ling Han in speed? Ling Han caught up to him and followed up with a strike from his sword. Pooh! Qin Shuang's head was pierced right through with the divine demon sword. His mind crumbled, and he ultimately died. Ling Han withdrew his sword and grabbed out with both hands. He immediately grabbed over the spatial god tool that Qin Shuang had carried on him. This formation technique is not bad. In the future, Grandpa Dog will no longer have to worry that anyone will be able to flee from him. The large black dog took away the core that controlled the formation that Qin Shuang had on him. He began to eagerly stow the formation away. Ling Han was also interested in this formation, but the large black dog couldn't just help him for nothing, after all. Otherwise, it would be difficult to ask him for help again in the future. Ling Han extended his divine sense into Qin Shuang's spatial god tool and did a sweep. An alchemical pill appeared in his hand. Though he was already a 5-star alchemist, he still could not recognize this alchemical pill. However, he could be certain that there was a powerful aura contained within. In fact, it was superior even to great celestial king tier pills. Thinking back to what Qin Shuang had previously said about how he had moved out because he had received a heavenly Venerate pill from Ma Yuhai, then this was the heavenly Venerate pill. Heavenly Venerate pill. What is its use? Ling Han knew this was something good, but did not know its exact effects. What? Heavenly Venerate pill. Quick, give it to Grandpa Dog. The large black dog immediately leaped over, stretching out his paw shamelessly. Ling Han hurriedly stowed away the heavenly Venerate pill. Scram, you have already taken a formation technique, and you still want this as well? This is a treasure, after all. The more, the better. The large black dog was extremely shameless. It was impossible to make him feel conscientious. Ling Han only gave him the middle finger. Only then did the large black dog say, "A heavenly Venerate pill is a biological precious medicine concocted when a heavenly Venerate extracts his own blood essence combined with his personal martial intent. It would be greatly beneficial even to celestial kings. However, it would be best if Grandpa Dog ingested it. It can help Grandpa Dog advance into the heavenly venerable tier much sooner." Ling Han merely chuckled. This damn dog's eyes were spinning endlessly when he was talking. Who the fuck would believe him? Ling Han stowed away Qin Shuang's celestial tool. The large black dog also helped him to suppress it, erasing the martial intent contained within and making it easier for the divine demon sword to devour it. On this point, the large black dog did not say anything, because the issue of whether the divine demon sword could advance to become a heavenly Venerate tool was a matter that implicated the serious problem of whether the karmic life heavenly venerable could be revived or not. "Brat, do you want Grandpa Dog to accompany you to the appointment?" the large black dog asked as he continued to play around with the foundation stone of the formation that he had just obtained. This was very simple. There were only 4 pillars, but after they were buried in the ground, the area that the 4 pillars enclosed would become an independent space. No need. Ling Han shook his head. If it was only Ma Yuhai, he naturally would not take it to heart. The man and dog went their separate ways. The large black dog still had to get more divine metal. Following the beginning of the cooperation with the Wang clan, the day for the divine demon sword to advance was getting closer and closer, and it also made the large black dog become very motivated. Because Ling Han had delayed a very long time on the way here, when he arrived at Great Fiery Mountain, the day was close to ending. "He's not coming, is he?" On the mountain, a great many people had deliberately come to watch the battle, but they had already waited until the moon was hanging high in the skies, and the day was about to end in just a little bit more time, yet there was still no sight of Ling Han. Then, it was likely impossible for him to still come. Has he shrunk from battle? It can't be, can it? Previously, hasn't Ling Han defeated Ma Yuhai with a single move? Why would he be afraid now? It can only be said that it was Ma Yuhai who had been careless before, and Ling Han had just won in a stroke of good fortune. Now that he knows that there is no way that he will succeed 2 times, he is coward. Hee, I didn't think he was this kind of person. Everyone was discussing spiritedly, while Ma Yuhai revealed a smirk. Not only did Ma Yuhai want Ling Han to die, he also wanted to redeem his fortune. Otherwise, how was it possible that the little princess of the Wang clan changed her mind about him? Ma Yuhai was very aware that there was no way Ling Han could come. With Qin Shuang moving, Ling Han should have long since been lying dead somewhere. And as for Ma Yuhai, he had been waiting here in full public all this while, so he naturally had absolutely nothing to do with Ling Han's death. Ma Yuhai spread out a hand and said, "Everyone, it is a disappointment. Please return." Everyone stood up, their heart filled with disdain for Ling Han. To think he had actually cowered from battle. The day has not yet ended. Why is everyone in such a rush? An even voice rang out. Everyone paused. Ling Han. It was Ling Han was finally here. Meanwhile, Ma Yuhai's expression changed drastically. Why was Ling Han here? Then what about Qin Shuang? Could it be that he had not managed to ambush Ling Han? If that was the case, that would be fine, and Ling Han clearly would not know Ma Yuhai's scheme. However, if Qin Shuang had already made his move, and Ling Han had still appeared here, the problem about that would be huge. Ma Yuhai couldn't stop trembling. What on earth had happened? Ling Han strode forwards and arrived at the summit, where he faced Ma Yuhai directly. He smiled. "When you see me appear, you must be very stunned, right?" Ma Yuhai forcefully retained his composure. "What would I be stunned by? It was I that asked you out for this battle, and it was you procrastinating and only appearing at this moment." Ling Han set his eyes on Ma Yuhai, and after a good few breaths' time, he finally said, "You asked someone to ambush me on the way here, planning to kill me. Seeing me appear alive and well, you must be feeling very perturbed, right?" "What?" Hearing Ling Han's words, a flurry of commotion exploded among the spectators in an instant. Was that really the case? It's quite logical. Otherwise, Ma Yuhai has clearly suffered a terrible defeat, and there is no clear improvement in his strength. So what is the reason he would dare to challenge Ling Han to a battle again? Hiss, that is too underhanded, isn't it? Hee. If the Martial Academy interrogated the murderer, and he confessed everything, even Lord Ma Feng would not be able to save him. At the very least, he would be expelled from the Martial Academy. That would truly be an extreme humiliation. Ma Yuhai's hands were tightly clenched into fists. His heart was also filled with unease. What if Qin Shuang had really been apprehended and confessed the truth of how the two of them had collaborated together and schemed to kill a disciple of the Martial Academy? He would be done for. Just when he was in a daze, Ling Han suddenly sped up, and arrived right in front of Ma Yuhai in a quick leap before throwing a punch at him. Clang! Ma Yuhai was instantly sent flying from this strike. While in midair, he already spluttered out a mouthful of blood, along with a considerable number of teeth. If he hadn't been so distracted, he would definitely not have been sent flying with a single slap like this, but who asked for chaos to run wild inside his heart now? Added with the fact that Ling Han's burst of speed was really too fast, Ma Yuhai had once again fallen with a single strike from Ling Han. Ma Yuhai collapsed onto the ground, blowing up a layer of dust. He was just about to scramble to his feet when he felt a weight on his face. A foot forcefully pushed him back to the ground. I will spare your life this time, but there would definitely be no second time. Ling Han threatened menacingly. With one foot stepping on a prodigy, he swept his eyes over the surroundings, and everyone couldn't help but lower their head, not daring to even make eye contact with him. Chapter 2672, 2672, He Yufeng exits seclusion. Chapter 2672, 2672, He Yufeng exits seclusion. 2672, He Yufeng exits seclusion. At this time, the moon hung in the center of the sky, and this day had just ended. Everyone was shocked. Just how much time had Ling Han taken for this trip? But he had already struck Ma Yuhai to the ground. Just how wide did the power gap have to be between the two of them? But there were a large number of people who had a discerning eye, and they revealed the truth. Ling Han is indeed very strong, but it is not definite that Ma Yuhai is weaker than him either. But last time, when he had been defeated by Ling Han with a single strike, a psychological trauma must have been left behind in Ma Yuhai's heart. This time, added with how his plot was exposed, his emotions are even more disturbed. It is probable that he would not realize it even if thunder was rumbling, and adding how Ling Han is really too fast, that is what led to him being defeated with a single strike again. Facing Ling Han truly is Ma Yuhai's misfortune. Everyone shook their head, but there were also people who were curious, guessing who the person Ma Yuhai had asked for help had been. That person must be stronger than Ma Yuhai. At the ninth heaven, Monarch Star or Supreme Monarch Star. Everyone put the Monarch Stars and Supreme Monarch Stars of the ninth heaven in the Martial Academy together, yet discovered there was an overwhelmingly large number of suspects. This was because this was the world's paramount martial academy, which had gathered all the prodigies in the Genesis world. Furthermore, the majority of prodigies naturally would also be stuck at the ninth heaven. Thus, the number of prodigies at this level was the highest. Amu, Dushi, Kenyu, and the Imperial Void Celestial King were all placed under suspicion. Yet Ling Han couldn't be bothered. Since Ma Yuhai wanted to start a feud with him, then he'd oblige him. Ling Han had not killed Ma Yuhai this time. It was not because he didn't want to, but because he could not. After all, Ma Yuhai wanting to kill Ling Han was only Ling Han's one-sided claim. Now that Qin Shuang was dead, if Ling Han killed Ma Yuhai as well, there really would be no one alive to give testimony on his behalf. The crime of killing a disciple of the Martial Academy was too heavy. The main reason is still that my strength is inadequate, Ling Han thought. If I was a heavenly Venerate, what would the simple matter of killing an eighth heaven celestial king be worth? Hence, only if I become a heavenly Venerate will I truly be able to transcend and be above all rules. Ling Han returned to the Martial Academy and once again buried himself in alchemy. The amount of divine metal he had obtained was increasing, but when the number came to 40 pieces, even the Wang clan was starting to feel troubled. Divine metal was not just cabbages that could be gotten anywhere. They had some supplies of their own, and also bought some more. They also traded for some in exchange for celestial pills with other noble clans. However, 40 pieces was already their limit. In the short term, they would not be able to get more than that. Thus, Ling Han had the Wang clan use other resources as replacement. He also wanted to advance the indestructible Celestial King Physique to the 9th level. His work in alchemy slowed down as a result because he had used most of the medicinal ingredients that the Wang clan had gathered over several epochs. Ling Han took the Heavenly Venerate pill and ingested it. He was in great need of strength at present. Boom! When he ingested the alchemical pill, it turned into a fiery dragon that wreaked havoc in Ling Han's body. A powerful intent blazed, as if this was a high and lofty god that others could only worship. This was the pseudo-heavenly Venerate divine sense that belonged to Ma Feng. Ling Han humped. A mere pseudo-heavenly Venerate wants me to submit to him? If a pseudo-heavenly Venerate really arrived, he would still only be able to suppress Ling Han's physical body. It was absolutely impossible to make Ling Han's will submit. That was because Ling Han had already created his own path. Merely in the aspect of quality, he was not inferior to a heavenly Venerate. And now even the will of a pseudo-heavenly Venerate wanted to suppress him. Was this a joke? This was Ling Han's body, and Ling Han was the king here. Under his aggressive suppression, even the will of a pseudo-heavenly Venerate could only submit. Boom! A frightening power spread out throughout Ling Han's body, increasing his cultivation level. A first-tier heavenly Venerate has grasped the unique power of a certain dimension, and as for a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, he can already come into contact with this kind of power and extract it to temper himself. From a certain angle, he is a ninth heaven celestial king that has cultivated a body art. Ling Han glimpsed a sliver of essence of Ma Feng's cultivation path from this heavenly Venerate pill. It was no wonder that this pill could possibly help a ninth heaven celestial king break through to the heavenly venerable tier. But this was useless to Ling Han. He had long since created his own path. In fact, he could even extract void particle energy to temper his body. What he needed was merely the increase to his cultivation level. 10 days later, he had completely refined the medicinal effects contained within this heavenly Venerate pill. This is only an alchemical pill that a pseudo-heavenly Venerate concocted, so it cannot be called a heavenly Venerate pill yet. However, it has still advanced my cultivation level to the late stage of the 7th heaven, so it is quite good. If I could have another 3 or 4 such pills, I should be able to reach the peak stage. I would then be able to break through to the 8th heaven. Ling Han couldn't help but sigh. Recently, time was really crawling for Ma Yuhai. He felt uneasy every single day. He feared that his plot had been exposed, and that he would completely fall from grace. He went to check on Qin Shuang, but the latter had already vanished. If Qin Shuang was dead, Ma Yuhai would be fine. As long as he denied everything, the Martial Academy could not possibly sentence him for a crime with just Ling Han's side of the story. Furthermore, Ma Yuhai was a son of a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. Without absolute proof, who would dare pluck out his spirit and search for the truth? But if Qin Shuang was captured, that would be terrible. 1 month, half a year, 3 years. Time passed very quickly, and no one appeared from the authorities of the Martial Academy to question Ma Yuhai about the matter of Ling Han being ambushed, so he finally relaxed his heavy heart gradually. From the look of things, Qin Shuang really had died. 4 years later, groundbreaking news came out. He Yufeng had exited seclusion. Who was He Yufeng? He was from an even higher grade than AMU, Dushi, and Can Yu. He was a supreme prodigy of the term before last. Furthermore, he had another prestigious identity. His father was a 4th-tier, heavenly Venerate by the name of He Rong, holding the title Bloody Mist. He Yufeng was the type to keep a very low profile, constantly staying in a state of seclusion. There were pitifully few people that knew of him, but that was definitely no reason to deny that he was strong. In his batch, he was one of the top elites, and could practically be invincible. If that had been all, then it wouldn't have been anything notable that he had exited seclusion. It would not have caused such great commotion. More importantly, he had taken the step that all celestial kings dreamt of, and become a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. This was too shocking, and caused an uproar in the whole Martial Academy. Those as strong as AMU, Dushi, and the other big shots had already reached the peak stage of the 9th heaven about 10 billion years ago, but 10 billion years had passed, and they were still stuck where they had started. Why was this? Was their talent inadequate? Did they not work hard enough? Did they not have enough luck? Wrong. They were equipped with all the conditions for breaking through to the heavenly venerable tier, yet were still not able to cross over to this new threshold. To become a heavenly Venerate, A very extensive time of appreciation of the heaven and earth was required. Who would be as lucky as Ling Han, having been able to become the overlord of a realm? He Yufeng had advanced to the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier, and this was absolutely authentic. In his batch of disciples, he was also the only one who had reached the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier so far. This definitely was related to He Yufeng's help. He had prepared countless cultivation resources for his son, and they were all the highest grade of treasures. However, it was still undeniable that He Yufeng had the necessary ability. This was the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier, and all the people who had attained this level in history had been people at the peak of their generation. Previously, Ling Han had defeated Heavenborn and was very well known for it, but as the news of He Yufeng breaking through to the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier spread out, this news naturally overshadowed Ling Han's feat completely. No matter how strong a celestial king was, compared with a heavenly Venerate, they were all trash. When Ma Yuhai heard about this, he instantly leaped sky high. He was too excited. He hurriedly begged for an audience with He Yufeng. The latter's subordinate had died by Ling Han's hand, so He Yufeng should be extremely furious. Chapter 2673, 2673 Great Accomplishment of Celestial Physique. Chapter 2673, 2673 Great Accomplishment of Celestial Physique. 2673 Great Accomplishment of Celestial Physique. Ma Yuhai was still considered a notable figure, so not long after he had called to pay respects, He Yufeng granted him an audience. "Spare me your complimentary remarks. I'm tired of hearing it," He Yufeng said dully, being extremely blunt. Ma Yuhai was slightly embarrassed, but the other party was on the same level as his own father, so how would he dare to have any objection? He quickly said, "Young Master He, something has happened." "What's the matter?" He Yufeng turned to look at him. Ma Yuhai suddenly felt he was under great pressure. This was a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. One gaze nearly caused him to collapse. He adjusted his frame of mind, and then said, "Young Master He's servant, Lord Qin Shuang, might have been killed." He Yufeng's gaze turned severe, and Ma Yuhai immediately collapsed onto his backside on the ground. This was the true power of the pseudo-heavenly Venerate. He Yufeng withdrew his gaze and asked lightly, "How do you know?" Qin Shuang was just one of He Yufeng's minions, so He Yufeng naturally didn't care whether the former was alive or dead, but he was one of his men, so if really someone had killed him, as the saying went, one needs to consider who the master is before hitting a dog. He Yufeng definitely would not let the matter go. Ma Yuhai had initially made up a bunch of lies, but when He Yufeng cast him a glance, all those lies evaporated into thin air, and he quickly told the truth in full detail, not daring to add anything or spice it up in any way. After hearing this, He Yufeng couldn't help but sneer. "You have got guts, even daring to murder a disciple of the Martial Academy, huh?" Ma Yuhai was just getting up from the ground, but when he heard these words, he sat down again in fright. While he was a supreme monarch star at the peak stage of the 8th heaven, he was completely but an ant when faced with a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. "Qin Shuang died because of you. You will cripple both your arms, head on to Burst Cloud Volcano, and stay there for a year," He Yufeng spoke again. Ma Yuhai didn't dare to have any objection. He nodded quickly, but his face was full of fear. Breaking both his arms was not a big deal, but Burst Cloud Volcano was a dangerous place in the flaming frost realm. Its horrifying flames could easily melt even divine metal. Furthermore, he had to stay on the mountain for a year. One could imagine how dangerous that could be. It would cause him extreme suffering. But would he dare to say no? A pseudo-heavenly Venerate was no longer bound by any regulations. What if He Yufeng became upset and killed him with a single strike? "Yes," Ma Yuhai said respectfully. "Ling Han, this person who dares to kill my servant, I will make him pay a deserving price for this," He Yufeng said again. Ma Yuhai felt overjoyed immediately. A pseudo-heavenly Venerate was going to take action against Ling Han, so no matter how freakish the latter was, it would be of no use, as his life or death would completely depend on a mere thought of He Yufeng. "Scram," He Yufeng said in annoyance. Ma Yuhai turned around and left at once, as nothing good would happen to him if he was to anger a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. He had seen some top-tier prodigies who, taking for granted that they had some natural talent and some background, showed even the slightest disrespect in the presence of his father, and were crushed to smithereens as a result. Heavenly Venerate was indeed an existence that surpassed regulations. Even a pseudo-heavenly Venerate was also seated in a high and lofty height, with divine might that could not be violated. Again, the Wang clan had sent over a large quantity of resources, which included quite a number of natural treasures. Ling Han cast a sweeping glance at them and couldn't help but show a satisfied smile. In this way, his cultivation of indestructible celestial king physique should be able to reach the 9th level. For this, he cultivated in seclusion, and he succeeded after 3 months. It's finally accomplished, the completed state of indestructible celestial king physique. Ling Han laughed heartily. How strong would his defense be now? Even if a 9th heaven celestial king bombarded him with all his might, his body would not be hurt. Even if he was hit by a celestial tool, or a monarch star or supreme monarch star at the peak stage of the 9th heaven struck him, they would only cause minor injuries to his body. Unfortunately, it's still a little far from reaching the indestructible divine metal physique. Even if I was to concoct alchemical pills like before, I reckon that it will take about 10,000 years to gather enough resources. However, the celestial medicines accumulated by the Wang clan over an epoch have already been completely used to concoct alchemical pills. Even if they were to procure more from various corners, how would they be able to keep up with my speed of concocting alchemical pills? It seems that if I want to achieve the indestructible divine metal physique, it will only happen at least after 100 million years. Ling Han came out of seclusion and just sat down when he saw Zhu Xin'er coming over with an invitation card while saying, "Husband, you have got something else to work on." "What is it?" Ling Han asked casually. "He Yufeng's banquet." Zhu Xin'er raised the invitation card in her hand. "Who is He Yufeng? I don't know him." Ling Han shook his head. "Husband, he isn't just anybody, but one who has recently broken through to reach the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier," Zhu Xin'er said with a straight face. "Furthermore, He Yufeng's father is a 4th tier, heavenly Venerate. You have no idea now how many people in the Martial Academy take pride in receiving He Yufeng's invitation. However, the number of invitations issued is extremely limited, and only the real prodigies and descendants of heavenly Venerates would qualify." Ling Han thought about it and suddenly realized. So it is this He Yufeng. Husband knows him? Zhu Xin'er asked curiously. Ling Han shook his head. "I don't know him, but I killed one of his men." Zhu Xin'er only rolled her eyes. He hadn't yet met with this person, but already there was enmity. This was an ability that only her husband would possess, right? "Then it's better that you do not attend this banquet," she said. Ling Han shook his head. "Since they have invited me, why should I not attend?" But Zhu Xin'er wanted to say more, but when she saw Ling Han's expression of indifference with a trace of determination, she knew that it would be futile to further dissuade him. However, this was the Martial Academy, after all, so even He Yufeng wouldn't dare to do anything, right? He Yufeng's banquet was scheduled to take place 7 days later. This date was more than half a year since he had officially become a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. Why did he delay to hold the banquet so late? That was because the achievement of becoming a pseudo-heavenly Venerate would be a major event, and even within a transcendent dimension like the Flaming Frost Realm, it was normal to only have 1 or 2 appear in a single epoch. Given that currently prodigies from all over had gathered, and the prodigies of practically the entire Genesis world were gathered here, the frequency of pseudo-heavenly Venerates popping up became much higher, so much so that more than 100 could be produced within an epoch. On average, that would be 1 in every 100 billion years, which was still a pitifully small number. Of course, for such a grand event, powerful figures from all sides would be invited. However, as most of the heavenly Venerates were fighting against hysteria at the realm battlefield, and a pseudo-heavenly Venerate was still not heavenly Venerate in their eyes, and not worthy enough to be on an equal footing with them, they naturally would not humble themselves to attend. Even so, He Yufeng's abode was still filled with as many ninth heaven celestial king as clouds, and if they were not ninth heaven celestial kings, then they had to have a background of the heavenly Venerate level, otherwise they would not be qualified to even appear here at all. Ling Han asked around, and only the large black dog had received the invitation among his group of acquaintances. He went together with the large black dog and came to the mountain where He Yufeng's abode was located. Invitation. The person standing guard at the foot of the mountain was actually a ninth heaven celestial king. After examining the invitation for one person and one dog, he smiled at them and allowed the two to go up the mountain. Brat, look, everyone else has carriages to travel around, while the two of us are traveling on foot. The large black dog couldn't help but complain to Ling Han as he watched all the carriages speed by. Grandpa Dog is, after all, a ninth heaven celestial king at the pinnacle of the celestial path and can't be seen in such a pathetic state. Do you mean to say that we ought to go back and get a carriage to come here again? No need to go through all that trouble. You can simply get down on all fours and serve as a mount for me, the large black dog said very shamelessly. Get lost. Chapter 2674, 2674 Great Extravagance. Chapter 2674, 2674 Great Extravagance. 2674 Great Extravagance. Those that were worthy of being invited by He Yufeng were really either very wealthy or very noble. Either they had a heavenly Venerate in their family line, or their own strength and natural talent were extremely astounding. Hence, they were all seated in very handsome carriages. These were only used when they were traveling to very important occasions, firstly as a show of respect to the host, and secondly also as a symbol of their own status. Ling Han and the large black dog saw a very extravagant person, and his steed was actually an old ox that was manifested from divine metal. It was only palm-sized, and looked to be slowly trundling along, but every step covered a boundless distance, which was extremely shocking. Seeing this, the large black dog and Ling Han could barely stop themselves from rushing forwards to rob him, but thinking that this was after all the martial academy, they ultimately suppressed this impulse. Though there were also some other extravagant people, none of them could compare with this guy. Who could it be? Ling Han asked curiously. The large black dog scratched his head with a paw. Come, let's go and knock them out secretly. Ling Han rolled his eyes at him. Divine metal was extremely rare in the first place, and when divine metal was sentient and capable of taking the form of an animal, that was even rarer. The owner of this carriage had to be extremely extraordinary. If they tried to knock him out secretly, wouldn't they have the tables turned on them and be beaten up instead? If you want to, you go ahead. Ling Han shook his head resolutely. The large black dog was only saying it, and did not continue to hoot about the issue. Very soon, the man and dog arrived at the summit. There were carriages of various types and shapes parked outside now, but though the carriage that was pulled by that golden ox was extremely small, it was still extremely eye-catching, because not a single carriage around dared to approach at all. They all maintained an adequate distance, so it seemed to stand out like a swan in a flock of chickens. True, it was divine metal that could take form. Even if it was only at the first heaven, its defenses would have already reached the peak stage of the celestial king tier, immortal and indestructible. Just look at Heavenborn. Just how hard was he to deal with? But now, a powerful creature manifested from divine metal was actually the horsepower for someone else. How powerful would that person have to be? Just whom does this belong to? It was not just Ling Han and the large black dog that were curious. A great many people were discussing it spiritedly at the entrance to the abode. None of them had seen this carriage before, and they were all guessing at who the owner of this carriage was, or rather, which heavenly Venerate's descendant this visitor was. Some people had long since entered the abode, while there were some that were beckoning over their friends and acquaintances, planning to group together before entering. Ling Han, someone called out. Ling Han raised his head. This was a man he had never met, but Ling Han knew who it was because he had detected this person's aura before when he had been fighting with Heavenborn. AMU, he asked. That's right. AMU nodded, and did not find it strange that Ling Han recognized him. He had been in the martial academy for more than 10 billion years, and his information had long since been made known to everyone. So what was wrong with the fact that Ling Han recognized him? He Yufeng has already advanced to the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier. We, too, have to get a move on. Another voice rang out. Du Shi appeared, his figure sturdy and his mighty aura on full display, his demeanor domineering and sharp. Who knows, it could be junior brother Ling Han that surpasses those before him and is the first to become a pseudo-heavenly venerate. Ken Yu appeared as well, his expression aloof. Those who didn't know better would think that they had garnered his displeasure. The three big shots appeared, instantly drawing the attention of everyone. The large black dog would naturally not be afraid of such situations. Puffing out his chest, he waved a paw in greeting at the people around. I am a powerful figure, written all over his posture. Greetings. Ling Han clasped his hand, offering his greetings to the three big shots. The three big shots were all very polite towards him. They were all domineering and proud, and would not consider even peak stage ninth heaven celestial kings worthy of their regard. But once it was proven that a person could be their equal in future, they would also banish their heirs and become considerably amicable and approachable. Ling Han had already proven that he would be qualified to become a heavenly venerate in the future. This was only a matter of time. Thus, it naturally made the three big shots accept him into their midst. Though the large black dog was undependable and very showy, he indeed was qualified to become a heavenly venerate, so the three big shots did not dare treat him lightly, either. Furthermore, he was already a ninth heaven celestial king. Whichever angle they were looking at it, he was not inferior to the three of them in any way. Humph! A cold humph rang out, and the imperial void celestial king appeared. He was not alone, as he had his son with him. Old geezer, what are you humphing around for? Ling Han had not even spoken. The large black dog was the first to flip out. He naturally despised the imperial void celestial king to the utmost, baring his sharp teeth and huffing out steam from his mouth. An animal dares insult my father? Yu Wudi immediately jumped out. In his eyes, his father was the greatest celestial king in the world, and was not matched by anyone. Now, a black dog actually dared to rebuke his father in front of him, which was something he naturally could not tolerate. Nothing but a mere third heaven celestial king. Don't embarrass yourself, Ling Han stated calmly. In the martial academy, while elites could not make a move on those weaker than themselves by 2 levels, it did not mean that the weaker party could provoke them. Otherwise, even if they were thrashed, it would be for nothing. In this world, it was ultimately power that made the rules. Now that Yu Wudi had voluntarily provoked a ninth heaven celestial king, even if he was beaten half dead, he would deserve it. Nothing would happen to the large black dog at all. Yu Wudi was clearly aware of this. He still dared jump around like this. That naturally was because his father was presently standing behind him. Ling Han. Yu Wudi looked towards Ling Han, and he involuntarily raised a brow, filled with uncontrollable fury. Yu Wudi had walked the celestial path, and had initially planned to attain a perfect celestial seed, but forced by Ling Han, he had no choice but to break through and advance, losing all chance of attaining perfection. This naturally filled him with great resentment. However, his own battle prowess was far inferior to Ling Han's, so what chance would he have to avenge this misdeed? Now that his enemy had appeared in front of him, his eyes turned bloodshot with fury. Yet Ling Han did not even glance at him. This kind of guy was already not worthy of garnering his regard. If this were not the martial academy, he would have directly killed him with a single strike. Ling Han set his eyes on the imperial void celestial king and said, "If you do not take care of your son's smelly mouth, I will be smashing it." The imperial void celestial king couldn't help but sneer. Ling Han, you really are arrogant. Do you think that you are qualified to stand equal to me just because you have advanced to the 7th heaven now? Old geezer, what are you so fierce for? Don't you know that this brat is under Grandpa Dog's protection? The large black dog jumped out, pointing a paw at the imperial void celestial king, his actions very provocative. The imperial void celestial king was very disdainful. A defeated opponent, I alone can suppress the two of you." The large black dog roared loudly and moved aggressively. The Imperial Void Celestial King was taken aback. In his eyes, the large black dog was the type to have no backbone. How did he dare to make a move on him voluntarily? While that was what he was thinking, he naturally would not just be standing there and allowing the large black dog to attack him. His right hand balled into a fist, and he threw a punch at the large black dog, endless regulations condensing in his fist. This punch had astonishing might. Clang! The two of them exchanged a punch, and both of them instantly trembled, taking a few steps backwards. Boom! A frightening shock wave surged out, and everyone in the surroundings was implicated as they were thrown backwards as if they were made of straw. Thankfully, those that could come today either had outstanding strength themselves or had a heavenly venerable tier background, so how could they possibly not possess any treasures that they could protect themselves with? In this instant, various kinds of lights burst madly as terrifying auras that surpassed great Tao spread out. Ling Han, Du Shi, and the company naturally would not be concerned. If the Imperial Void Celestial King or the large black dog attacked them, they definitely would have to dodge or make a move to parry, but if it was just a mere shock wave, it was no big deal. The Imperial Void Celestial King looked surprised because the large black dog was actually not the slightest bit inferior to him in this exchange. Chapter 2675, 2675 He Yufeng appears. Chapter 2675, 2675 He Yufeng appears. 2675 He Yufeng appears. Old geezer, never thought that grandpa dog would be so powerful, right? The large black dog was proud of himself, swaying his behind, his iron underwear reflecting light. He couldn't look any more despicable if he tried. The Imperial Void Celestial King was indeed angered, and even Ling Han and the others felt their eyes hurt as they were blinded by this horrible sight. "Strange," the Imperial Void Celestial King mumbled. When one had reached a height like they had, it was possible that their strength could only increase by the slightest sliver in a whole epoch, but just how long had passed? The large black dog was actually able to stand as his equal now. This improvement was too shockingly large. It was completely unrealistic. This was natural. The large black dog was strong not because his cultivation level had progressed, or because he had suddenly comprehended something, but rather because Ling Han had taught the 9 Transformations Divine Scroll to him. By now, the large black dog had already comprehended and fused 4 parts of the 9 Transformations Divine Scroll. This naturally boosted his battle prowess by a large extent, so he was now capable of matching the Imperial Void Celestial King. Furthermore, the might of a complete heavenly Venerate technique was indeed greater, but it would also expend more power, and even a 9th Heaven Celestial King could not possibly channel it constantly. However, a heavenly Venerate technique that had been split was different. With the large black dog's cultivation level, he was completely capable of channeling it continuously. Again, the large black dog did not fall into a disadvantage in this exchange, so he was naturally unwilling to give up. With old feuds and new grudges all added together, how could he be willing to stop here? The Imperial Void Celestial King humphed coldly. He naturally would not be afraid either. The 2 great Celestial Kings fought furiously, causing extensive damage and destruction. Ling Han looked towards Yuwudi, but did not speak. He looked like a hungry wolf that had set his eye on a little rabbit. Yuwudi felt a chill at the look in his eyes. Involuntarily, he took several steps back. He only came to his senses when he retreated to the point that he collided with a broken pillar. His face instantly flushed red. "That's enough, isn't it? Today is the great day of our young master. Please pay some respect to my master." A voice rang out, and a powerful aura spread out. The Imperial Void Celestial King and the large black dog exchanged another 3 blows, and only then did they stop. The person who had spoken to play mediator was a 9th Heaven Celestial King, but he was only a monarch tier, and neither the Imperial Void Celestial King nor the large black dog took him to heart. However, he was speaking on behalf of a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, so they still had to give his master some face. "Old geezer, I'll beat you up every time I see you, the large black dog declared, pointing at the Imperial Void Celestial King. The Imperial Void Celestial King almost exploded with fury. You didn't even fucking get the upper hand. So why are you speaking so self-righteously? Usually, he would not be angered so easily, but the appearance of the large black dog was really too capable of drawing fury. His whole being was emanating a despicable feeling. Even if one did not want to get angry, it could not be done. Du Shi sighed slowly and said, "If anyone tells me again that Junior Brother and Brother Black Dog come from a super low-level dimension, I will definitely get angry at them." Amu couldn't help but laugh. True, what low-level dimension could produce Ling Han, Heavenborn, the Imperial Void Celestial King, the large black dog, Hua Furong, Ji Wuming, and other such supreme prodigies all of a sudden? All of them could possibly reach the heavenly venerable tier. Was this super low-level dimension going to explode? Humph. The Imperial Void Celestial King beckoned his son to enter into the abode. Before he entered, he glared harshly at Ling Han and the large black dog, especially Ling Han. He had not been able to get rid of him at the celestial realm, and in the end, this little brat had gained enough time and room to mature. Now, he was close to standing on equal level with him. Too bad, it was too late for regrets. Ling Han, Amu, and the others entered into the abode. Ling Han knew that He Yufeng definitely had not invited him here for anything good, but he couldn't avoid him forever. Ultimately, he would have to face him eventually. It was useless to continue avoiding him. Thus, he had come. Banquets were more or less the same, an occasion for wining and dining and making some friends. Representatives had also come from the Wang clan, and it was not just the little princess of the Wang clan. There were also two important characters, Wang Qinyang and Wang Yangming, which could be considered as having given He Yufeng enough face. By now, Wang Yangming's attitude towards Ling Han was even more passionate than Wang Qinyang's. The moment he saw Ling Han, he walked over, dragging Wang Jiayue with him, and said, "Young friend Ling, long time no see. How long could it be?" Ling Han chuckled and replied, "Greetings, seniors." As for Wang Jiayue, he naturally ignored her entirely. Wang Jiayue humphed. This man actually dared to reject her, so she was both angered and dissatisfied. Amu and the other big shots had their own circles, so it was naturally impossible that they would constantly stay with Ling Han. Seeing the people from the Wang clan approach, they smiled, excused themselves, and walked elsewhere. Ling Han chatted idly with Wang Qinyang and Wang Yangming, and it was inevitable that He Yufeng would come up in conversation. This boy is truly freakish. It has only been 300 billion years, and he has already advanced to the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier. This kind of accomplishment can be ranked in the top 3 in the last epoch. Wang Qinyang was very rueful. "I have lived for 3 epochs, yet still have not glimpsed the heavenly venerable tier. In comparison, this is truly something to make one feel rueful." Though the peak stage of the 9th Heaven Celestial King tier and pseudo-heavenly venerable tier were only separated by a single line, if one could not sense that unique power of heaven and earth, then no matter how outstanding your talent was, you would still be stuck at the Celestial King tier even after 100 epochs had passed. Wang Yangming was unconvinced and said, "Andy is not that far off either. He has set foot in the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier using only 401 billion years." Wang Qinyang also showed a sliver of pride. The reason why He Yufeng had managed to advance to the heavenly venerable tier sooner was also because his old man was a 4th tier heavenly venerate and had gotten enough natural treasures for him. Otherwise, the time of his breakthrough to the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier would not be any less than that of the supreme prodigy of their own clan. Ling Han merely smiled in response. He could not bring himself to say that, in actual fact, he was already able to sense void particle energy and could extract it to temper himself. From a certain point of view, he was already a pseudo-heavenly venerate, but one that was weakened countless times over. He could just barely possess battle prowess at the level of the peak stage of the 9th heaven. He would not boast about that. It was probable there was no one that would believe him anyways. A 7th heaven, pseudo-heavenly venerate? More and more people arrived. Ling Han kept looking for the owner of that carriage pulled by the golden ox formed of divine metal, but no matter whom he asked, they would all shake their heads. They did not know that such an incredibly awesome character had also arrived at the banquet. This person was keeping such a low profile. When the moon had reached the center of the sky, someone suddenly shouted loudly, "The young master arrives." Instantly, there was a complete silence as everyone turned to look at the entrance of the inner courtyard. The figure of a young man very soon appeared. He was of slender, tall build, with a handsome face. His aura was subtle, and he seemed like an ordinary man. But one only had to take a better look, and one would discover how different he was. But to exactly point out what the difference was, it was not something that could be expressed in words. He Yufeng, a newly broken through Pseudo heavenly Venerate. Cocky, the large black dog scoffed. Ling Han also nodded, but also felt a bit of surprise because it had only been half a year since He Yufeng broke through, yet he had already taken control of his aura. Clearly, he had stabilized his cultivation level. This aspect proved just how freakish he was. He Yufeng was dashing and elegant, raising his cup to propose a toast. His words were also very polite, not putting on the airs of a pseudo-heavenly Venerate at all, so everyone gradually let go of their reservations and wariness, and liveliness returned once more to the area. "Which of you are Ling Han?" He Yufeng suddenly asked. Instantly, dead silence fell once more, and everyone turned to look at Ling Han. Ling Han only acted as if he had not heard anything, and slowly sipped from his cup of wine. He Yufeng looked towards him and said, "It was you who killed that servant of mine?" When these words fell, a wave of commotion arose among the crowd. When had this happened? Ling Han was too brave, wasn't he? He dared to make a move even on one of He Yufeng's men? That's right. Based on the results, it was indeed I who killed him. Ling Han nodded very frankly. Chapter 2676, 2676 Tyrant. Chapter 2676, 2676 Tyrant. 2676 Tyrant. If Qin Shuang was a disciple of the martial academy, Ling Han would definitely deny it completely. Killing one of his fellow disciples was a heavy crime. But if he was not a disciple of the martial academy, then there was no need to be reserved. Counter soldiers with arms and water with an earthweir. Just do whatever you like. You are really bold to dare to touch even one of my men, He Yufeng said, but the expression on his face was still nonchalant, as if he was not angered at all. Indeed, Qin Shuang was only one of his subordinates, not a member of his family. Moreover, he had already cultivated to the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier, so how could he possibly display all his emotions easily? I am in quite a good mood now, so my punishment for you is for you to be my servant for an epoch. Do you yield? He Yufeng continued. When everyone heard this, they were all gritting their teeth internally. Ling Han's freakish nature was clear for all to say. To say nothing of an epoch, it was possible he would only need several tens of billions of years, and he would be able to step out of the celestial king tier and become a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. If he were really to bow down to He Yufeng and become the latter's servant, then even if Ling Han became a heavenly Venerate in the future, it would also leave behind a humiliation that would never be erased. Throughout history, there had never been a time when a heavenly Venerate had become the servant of another. What heavenly Venerate was not extremely noble and proud? He Yufeng was really too ruthless, wasn't he? Ling Han smiled faintly. I am a disciple of the martial academy. Acting this way, don't you think that is going too far? Too far? He Yufeng laughed loudly. You are too naive. Rules can only bound mortals, and I have already leapt out of the mortal realm. The regulations of heaven and earth cannot bind me, and neither can the rules of the mortal world. Do you think that the martial academy would punish me severely if I killed you here today? At most, it would only be a few harmless words of reprimand. These words were spoken extremely arrogantly. This was practically ignoring the martial academy completely, but everyone had no choice but to admit that He Yufeng's words were indeed logical. Heavenly Venerates, even if it was just a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, had already leapt out of the chess game, and they could write their own rules to decide how the game should be played. Would the Martial Academy impose a heavy punishment on a pseudo-heavenly Venerate for the sake of a Celestial King disciple? Absolutely not. Otherwise, the Celestial King graveyard wouldn't have existed in the first place. Wouldn't it have been fine to just kill those Celestial Kings that had committed severe crimes? What would have been the point of sending them to prison? Those Celestial Kings that had powerful backgrounds were like that. So what more when it was a heavenly Venerate himself? He Yufeng stood with his arms crossed behind his back, his expression appearing very relaxed. As he saw it, he was only going through the motions. If Ling Han did not yield, he would just move to get rid of him, as simple as that. He would be just that overbearing, but so what? He was a heavenly Venerate, and that was why he could be so willful. Even if you were furious, you were outraged, you were dissatisfied, so what? Everyone's eyes were focused on Ling Han. People wanted to know how he would react. Would he bear with this and get this over with first, or choose to die in battle instead? No matter what, Ling Han's fate would definitely be terrible. Ling Han broke into a smile. Really? I don't believe it. The smile on He Yufeng's face instantly froze. He humphed. The word of a heavenly Venerate is even heavier than the regulations of heaven and earth. You dare to refuse. This is an insult to me. How could a heavenly Venerate tolerate being insulted? He stretched out a hand, and a terrifying pressure was instantly exerted. Everyone felt suffocated, and their blood vessels popped out, looking like they were close to bursting. Lord He, Wang Qinyang suddenly spoke up. I would like to ask Lord He for some face, to spare this boy just this once. Wang Qinyang, everyone thought simultaneously. The Wang clan was a veteran noble clan, and the Grand Elder of the Wang clan was a third-tier heavenly Venerate, an existence that the masses could only look up at in admiration. With Wang Qinyang speaking up on Ling Han's behalf like this, they were sure that He Yufeng would definitely give him some face, right? He Yufeng did not say anything, and merely stared at Wang Qinyang. The atmosphere became colder and colder. Everyone couldn't help but shiver. Only when it reached the point that some of them were close to screaming in spite of themselves did He Yufeng finally spoke. If it was that third-tier heavenly Venerate of the Wang clan that spoke, I would take a step back. If it was Brother Andy speaking, I would give him some face. However, you are but a mere ninth heaven celestial king. What right do you have to ask me to give you face? Gasp. Everyone inhaled sharply. None of them had expected that He Yufeng would actually not give Wang Qinyang any face at all. It should be known that Wang Qinyang was the clan leader of the Wang clan. Furthermore, it was also possible that he could break through to the heavenly venerable tier. But when everyone thought about it again, they nodded. In terms of background, He Yufeng's old man was a fourth-tier heavenly Venerate, a level higher than even the Grand Elder of the Wang clan. And in terms of their individual status, He Yufeng was a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, high and noble. Then, He Yufeng really had no need to give face to Wang Qinyang. No one could find any wrong in that. Meanwhile, Wang Qinyang was so furious that he was shaking. He was the clan leader of the Wang clan. From a certain aspect, he represented a third-tier heavenly Venerate. Even a true heavenly Venerate would be very polite to him, yet now someone was treating him with utter and complete disdain. How could he not feel angry? Moreover, I have just broken through, yet you dare to make me fail. What is the meaning of this? He Yufeng asked coldly. Wang Qinyang's beard moved even though there was no wind. He pointed at He Yufeng. Fine, I truly would like to see. What do you dare do to me? He stood in front of Ling Han. Wang Yangming hesitated slightly, but he, too, took a step and stood beside Wang Qinyang. The Wang clan had shown where they stood. They were going to stand on Ling Han's side. Merely biting off more than you can chew. He Yufeng moved, stretching out his right hand, which turned into a colossal hand that grabbed out at Wang Qinyang and Wang Yangming. There were no seals flickering. It was just a giant hand of green, as if it was carved from green stone, but the moment his hand extended, might rolled out strongly. Even a ninth heaven celestial king would feel fear. A pseudo-heavenly Venerate was someone that could only be blocked by at least 10 peak stage, 9th heaven celestial kings. Both Wang Qinyang and Wang Yangming went all out, but how could just the two of them block a pseudo-heavenly Venerate? Within just a few moves, they were both wounded and collapsed to sit on the ground, throwing up blood continuously. He Yufeng withdrew his hand and declared proudly, "For the sake of the rising clouds, heavenly Venerate, I will only issue a minor punishment and spare your lives." Both Wang Qinyang and Wang Yangming were coughing up blood continuously and could not speak at all. Ling Han's hands balled into fists, fury burning in his heart. He knew that He Yufeng would definitely be a tyrant, but for him to be tyrannical to this extent was something he had not expected. They were in the martial academy, but he was actually still so unrestrained. "Is there anyone that objects to my course of action?" He Yufeng asked calmly, sweeping a look at the surroundings. No one dared to make eye contact, all of them lowering their gazes. Meanwhile, the Imperial Void Celestial King and Yu Wudi were overjoyed. Ling Han was done for this time. He was definitely finished. Another person who was delighted was Zhuo Kai. He was smiling so wide that the corners of his lips were almost reaching his ears. He wanted nothing more than to clap loudly in delight. Grandpa Dog disagrees. The large black dog stepped out. "Brat, you have just cultivated a few more years. If little Han were given several 100 million years' time, see if he won't thrash you and make you call him Grandpa." He Yufeng's expression instantly darkened. This damn dog's tongue was truly poisonous. Not only had he insulted him in a single breath, he had also dragged his father into the matter. He humphed. "To dare act insolent in front of me, how dare you?" He moved once more, grabbing out at the large black dog. With his power, if he was grabbed solidly, the large black dog would definitely be crushed into pieces. "If you can, come and chase Grandpa Dog." The large black dog was previously speaking arrogantly, but when it really came down to a fight, he would be running faster than anyone. Shoo! In an instant, he raced out of the abode. Chapter 2677, 2677, Give Some Face. Chapter 2677, 2677, Give Some Face. 2677, Give Some Face. The large black dog's goal was very simple, which was to lead He Yufeng away in order to create a chance for Ling Han to escape. Unfortunately, He Yufeng was not fooled. His palm strike missed its target, and he quite casually withdrew his hand, his gaze still fixated on Ling Han. When the large black dog saw this, he immediately ran back and shouted at the door, "Fish-eyed brat, why don't you come after Grandpa Dog? You dare not? Come, come, Grandpa Dog will not bully you. How about I let you have the advantage, and I'll just fight with one front paw and one hind paw." As he folded one front paw and one hind paw, the large black dog stood on one leg. This was indeed very mocking, and the corners of He Yufeng's mouth twitched involuntarily. He couldn't help but deliver a palm strike at the large black dog. Boom! The outpouring of power was extremely terrifying. Grandpa Dog's leaving again. Shua, the large black dog, took to his heels at an incomparably fast speed. Prior to his complete cultivation of the indestructible Heaven Scroll, speed was his forte, and this was his real life-saving skill. He Yufeng missed again, but before he could speak, the large black dog appeared again. He stuck out his head at the door. "Did you miss Grandpa Dog? Grandpa Dog is back." He Yufeng's eyes flashed with fury. His insistence on dealing with Ling Han wasn't only due to the death of his subordinate, but also because he wanted to impose his might, or as the saying went, to make drastic changes to an organization upon taking charge. Having just ascended to the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier, he naturally had to impose his might and announce his rise to all. The Wang clan wanted to stop him, and he pushed them down without hesitation. When a large black dog wanted to stop him, he immediately delivered a fatal strike. The problem was, it didn't go very smoothly. How could this damn dog move so fast? He Yufeng decided to ignore him, and despite Ling Han's cultivation level being the lowest, he had already given him an ultimatum that either Ling Han would kneel and pledge his allegiance as a servant, or he would be killed. The dignified pseudo-heavenly Venerate had already spoken, so how could he not keep to his own word? He stared at Ling Han, killing intent flashing in his eyes. Damn fisheye, what's so impressive about bullying a brat at the 7th heaven? If you've got guts, how about having 300 rounds battling with Grandpa Dog? The large black dog shouted at once. This time, He Yufeng completely ignored him. He took action and launched a palm strike at Ling Han. The pseudo-heavenly Venerate made his move, and even if Ling Han's speed was higher than the ordinary 9th heaven celestial kings, how would he be able to dodge? Boom! This palm strike appeared in front of Ling Han as soon as it was unleashed. The huge green-colored hand was like a grindstone that could obliterate all celestial kings. Ling Han humphed loudly and channeled the indestructible heaven scroll. He had already accomplished the complete cultivation of the indestructible celestial king physique, which gave him the confidence to take this blow. Pong! As the palm pressed downwards, it immediately caused the entire abode to shake profusely. A battle between celestial kings could destroy this abode. What more when it was a pseudo-heavenly Venerate that had made the move? Fortunately, He Yufeng of course would not destroy his own abode. Afterwards, his left hand immediately followed with a grab, annihilating the resulting shock wave in time, and only made the abode shake. The dust dissipated, and a silhouette radiating with glittering golden light was seen in front of Ling Han. As the golden light dimmed until it disappeared, the figure of the large black dog was revealed. He had rushed out in time just now and blocked He Yufeng's blow. How freakish! A 9th heaven celestial king could actually block a blow from a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. It hurts Grandpa Dog so much. While everyone was still sighing in amazement, the large black dog flopped onto the ground, screaming in pain, which instantly caused everyone's newly revised impression of him to once again plunge to the lowest level of despicable. This was truly a despicable dog. Its ways couldn't be changed. The large black dog wasn't as miserable as he acted. He had also cultivated the indestructible celestial king physique, and had initiated the channeling of the indestructible heaven scroll. With his cultivation level as a 9th heaven celestial king, the power unleashed definitely surpassed that of Ling Han. At most, this blow would only shake up his internal organs for a bit. He Yufeng's expression turned ugly. He just wanted to kill a 7th heaven celestial king. How difficult could it be? He had just broken through to become a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, and this was precisely a time marked with great enthusiasm. Why did it turn out that so many people wanted to go against him? Ling Han had to die. He had to die. He Yufeng humphed. The large black dog could stop him once, but would he be able to stop him 100 or 1,000 times? If there was a person that a pseudo-heavenly Venerate wanted to kill, could a 9th heaven celestial king stop him from doing so? I also want to ask Brother He to give me some face. How about we drop the matter from here onwards? A pure and sweet voice suddenly sounded, and immediately melted the coldness like the spring breeze in March and made people feel comfortable. Yet He Yufeng was actually getting even more displeased. He merely wanted to kill a 7th heaven celestial king. Why was it that there would always be people who objected to it? He turned towards the person who had spoken. His gaze swept over, and his eyes suddenly narrowed slightly. She was a young girl with an elegant appearance. Although she couldn't be described as having goddess-like beauty, the sight of her made people feel comfortable, like a stalk of light-colored chrysanthemum, deserving of meticulous appreciation. However, that wasn't the main point. The main point was that he hadn't discovered the existence of this woman before this. He was a dignified pseudo-heavenly Venerate, with such powerful divine sense. How could he have missed out one person? Miss, what is your name? He Yufeng asked in a deep voice. Although this young girl didn't reveal any aura, he couldn't help but feel apprehensive. The woman smiled gently. Lin Piaoxue. Lin Piaoxue? Everyone exchanged looks and shook their head as they had never heard of the name. The large black dog leaned over and murmured softly, "Little Han, we don't have to run. This little girl seems to be very powerful." Ling Han nodded. Although the woman's aura wasn't prominent, she gave him a feeling of extreme danger. He Yufeng frowned slightly. This woman only revealed her name, but did not mention anything regarding her background or cultivation level, which was equivalent to not saying anything. He hesitated before asking, "Why does Miss Lin want to protect this person?" "Oh, my father thinks quite highly of this person, so he asked me to make this trip to bring him home with me and see how we can assist to increase his cultivation level by a little bit," Lin Piaoxue said in a very casual manner. However, when everyone heard this, they were all shocked. Ling Han was already at the 7th heaven, so how could it be an easy thing to increase his cultivation level by a little bit? However, Lin Piaoxue actually said it as if it was a matter as simple as eating a bowl of rice. "Fuck, what does your family do? And who might your father be? She must be bluffing." He Yufeng didn't believe it, either. He said lightly, "And who is your father?" Lin Piaoxue smiled gently. "Now it is me who asks brother He to give me some face. It has nothing to do with my father. That would have to depend on whether you have the strength." He Yufeng finally decided to take action. After having cultivated to become a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, if he couldn't do the first thing he said, then it would really make him lose face too much. Boom! He still stretched out one hand, which transformed into a green-colored grindstone. Lin Piaoxue wasn't the large black dog. Naturally, she would not dodge, but extended a delicate finger and pointed it towards the sky. A black light flashed and the grindstone in the sky instantly shattered to pieces. Boom! With this shot, her aura could no longer be hidden and surged up violently like a tsunami. Pseudo-heavenly Venerate. My goodness, another pseudo-heavenly Venerate. How come such a character has never been seen in the Martial Academy? Furthermore, she isn't a pseudo-heavenly Venerate who has just broken through, but also possesses a domineering aura of resolution and bloodlust. She must either have broken through in the realm battlefield, or have fought bloody battles there for countless years. Everyone was shocked. This was also a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, and she was most likely stronger than He Yufeng. Lin Piaoxue's face was plastered with a soft smile, and her manner was graceful. "Brother He, can you give me some face?" Chapter 2678, 2678 The Wrath of an Ordinary Man. Chapter 2678, 2678 The Wrath of an Ordinary Man. 2678 The Wrath of an Ordinary Man. This was the second time that Lin Piaoxue had said these words. The first time, He Yufeng was just curious and a little apprehensive, but the second time this sentence was uttered, he actually felt a chill rise within him. Although it was only one move, he had already noticed the disparity between himself and Lin Piaoxue. He wasn't strong enough. This was because he had relied on the accumulation of resources and extremely long periods of cultivation and seclusion to break through to become a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. Of course, he also possessed natural talent. Otherwise, no matter the amount of resources used or the length of time spent in painstaking cultivation, it would also be in vain. However, his opponent had broken through in bloody battles, with martial intent that couldn't be faked and was full of resolve and bloodlust. When compared, He Yufeng was like a flower seedling in a greenhouse, while the other party was like a towering tree that had weathered the storms. If the two of them were to battle, he would lose disastrously. He was just lacking in experience. If he could exchange blows with a pseudo-heavenly Venerate more often, then his battle prowess would definitely increase rapidly, and he would not lose to the other party. However, he wasn't her match right now. Therefore, he had to respectfully give her face. Just like before, He Yufeng could ignore the rules of the Martial Academy and deal with whomever he wanted, and even publicly announce he would kill Ling Han. Why was he allowed to be so insolent? Strength. The same was true now. His strength wasn't as great as Lin Piaoxue's, so he had to admit defeat. Otherwise, even if Lin Piaoxue decided to strike and beat the crap out of him, so what? A pseudo-heavenly Venerate was just a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. When facing an existence of the same level, he had to be apprehensive and even bow to her superior strength. For Miss Lin's sake, I will spare the brat this once. He glanced at Ling Han, cold light flickering in his eyes. This person had caused him to completely lose face. Naturally, This made him furious. He might not be able to kill him this time, but the next time, Lin Piaoxue couldn't possibly stay by Ling Han's side all the time, right? Tomorrow, he would kill this person. Get lost. He Yufeng waved Ling Han away in dismissal. What somebody didn't see couldn't hurt them. Everyone was feeling rueful. Ling Han was indeed born under a lucky star. First, the Wang clan personally stepped forward to take care of him. Then he was protected by an elite like the large black dog. And finally a mysterious Pseudo, heavenly Venerate was helping him out. One might well ask, was there any other seventh heaven celestial king who had such prestige? There wasn't a single person who felt that Ling Han should feel aggrieved. What was there to be aggrieved about? A pseudo-heavenly Venerate was forced to back down. Surely your stature was soaring sky-high. After this incident, Ling Han's fame would definitely rise to the next level, although it was on account of others. Ling Han moved, but to everyone's surprise, he didn't turn around. On the contrary, he strode towards He Yufeng until the two were only 3 meters apart, then stopped and said, "Although I am merely at the 7th heaven, and clearly not a pseudo-heavenly Venerate's match, but the wrath of an ordinary man can still cause blood to splash 3 feet." He said these words in a very low voice, letting out the anger that he had been suppressing for most of the day, and everyone couldn't help but be emotionally moved. "But what do you plan on doing? Challenging a pseudo-heavenly Venerate?" Ling Han paused for a while, and then said, "I would like to spar with heavenly Venerate He for 10 moves. As soon as these words were uttered, everyone was dumbfounded, and many people actually wondered if there was something wrong with their ears to have heard such preposterous words. A 7th heaven celestial king actually challenged a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. Gasp. However, big shots such as Du Shi and Amu showed admiration. Precisely as Ling Han had said, when an ordinary man was angered, he could cause blood to splash 3 feet. If Ling Han had just swallowed his anger, it would have been a wise move, but that would make them classify him as inferior. Although he would not be despised, he would not be regarded as one of them, either. To spar for 10 moves. His voice rang out resoundingly. I was at the 7th heaven, and naturally would not be a match for a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, but I did have my pride, and would definitely not allow you to bully and humiliate me. Lin Piaoshue's eyes lit up as well. Although she had come out to help Ling Han, it was only because of her father's orders. She didn't have any favorable impression of Ling Han, but, of course, neither did she bear any ill will against him. He was just someone she saw on the streets. There wasn't any feeling whatsoever. But at this moment, she somewhat understood why someone as powerful as her father would have such high regard for Ling Han. Just this courage of his was definitely worth her trip. She was keenly interested, and wanted to know whether Ling Han was simply an ordinary man being angered and blinded by his anger, which led him to overestimate his own abilities and issue a challenge, or he really had a trump card up his sleeve, and was confident he could withstand 10 moves against He Yufeng. The most furious of all, of course, was He Yufeng. The dignified pseudo-heavenly Venerate was actually challenged by a 7th heaven celestial king. Of course, he could have killed Ling Han with a single palm strike, but for a celestial king to dare to challenge a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, it was tantamount to the latter's dignity being ruthlessly stabbed and scraped in one blow. He Yufeng took a deep breath and said, "What an ignorant brat. Well, I will allow you to make 9 moves first, and when you get to the 10th move, I will make you understand what is reverence." He made up his mind to kill Ling Han on the spot at the 10th move, and not give Lin Piaoxue a chance to extend a helping hand. It couldn't be helped. Who asked this brat to challenge a pseudo-heavenly Venerate? The prestige of heavenly Venerate couldn't be violated. Ling Han smiled lightly. He didn't bring out the divine demon sword. He just shook his hands and squeezed them into fists. The 9 transformations divine scroll was circulating, and his battle prowess was increasing wildly. Currently, Ling Han's conventional battle prowess has reached the peak of the 9th heaven, and then being magnified by the 9 transformations divine scroll, his battle prowess could at least temporarily be comparable to that of a supreme monarch star at the peak of the 9th heaven, or even stronger. Kill! Ling Han charged forward, his fists striking furiously. Even if he was only a seventh heaven celestial king, did it mean that he had no temper and could be humiliated by others? As for the two elites of the Wang clan, they were injured by He Yufeng on Ling Han's account, and the large black dog was almost seriously wounded. Why should innocent people be implicated? Just because He Yufeng was strong? Pong, pong, pong. Ling Han struck furiously using both fists with enormous strength. Everyone was stunned. Was Ling Han really a seventh heaven celestial king? How come it felt like he was stronger than a ninth heaven celestial king? However, what was even more terrifying was He Yufeng. He crossed his hands behind his back, and no matter how Ling Han struck him furiously, he was like a boulder that wouldn't budge, making people feel despair at the situation. This was a pseudo-heavenly Venerate who had broken away from the celestial king tier and regulations and ascended to a kind of height that a celestial king could only look up to. Is your strength only this much? He Yufeng sneered. Lin Piaoxue secretly shook her head. Ling Han's current battle prowess was indeed extraordinary. If he was at the cultivation level of ninth heaven celestial king, then after channeling this secret technique, it would really be possible to hurt a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. However, Ling Han was merely at the level of seventh heaven after all. Such an attack would make any ninth heaven celestial king apprehensive, and even not dare face this kind of attack head-on, but it was still a long way off from dealing with a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. The seventh move, eighth move, and ninth move. He Yufeng smiled lightly and countered Ling Han with a strike of his palm. Aunt, you take a blow from me as well. Boom. When the strike was unleashed, heaven and earth almost ruptured. Lin Piaoxue could not find a reason to lend a hand, as it was Ling Han who said to spar for 10 moves. If he was killed by He Yufeng, that would be what he had brought upon himself. How could a heavenly Venerate be provoked? Ling Han didn't think of retreating. He gave a loud roar, his eyes flashed fiercely, his face was full of determination, and his right fist opened and spread out to form a palm strike, and 9-colored divine lightning flashed, striking fiercely towards He Yufeng. Pa, 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 as he unleashed this palm strike, his right arm began to rupture. All the blood vessels exploded at the same time, and skin and flesh flew, leaving only the bare bones as Ling Han charged forwards relentlessly. The Wrath of an Ordinary Man. Chapter 2679, 2679, A Pseudo-Heavenly Venerate Bleeds. Chapter 2679, 2679, A Pseudo-Heavenly Venerate Bleeds. 2679, A Pseudo-Heavenly Venerate Bleeds. Ling Han only sent out a shot of the 5 elements lightning technique, but why did his whole arm explode? That was very simple. It was because not only was he channeling the 5 elements lightning technique, he was also using the divine lightning to boost its power. A heavenly Venerate technique could not possibly be channeled constantly. A celestial king could not bear so much power. Before he used it to hurt others, he would kill himself first. If it had been a few days ago, Ling Han truly would not have dared to be so reckless, but his indestructible celestial king physique had already reached great accomplishment level. His physique was only slightly inferior to divine metal, yet this gave him the confidence and courage to make this attempt. Though he was just an ordinary man, his fury was still capable of making a heavenly Venerate bleed. Die! Ling Han charged over, boldly and grandly forging onwards without reservations. He Yufeng finally showed a hint of seriousness in his expression. He was proud, but he would definitely not be blindly self-conceited. When this blow from Ling Han was delivered, his first reaction was to avoid a head-on confrontation with it. But who was he? He was a dignified pseudo-heavenly Venerate, and to actually have to dodge the attack of a 7th heaven, how could he bear it? Furthermore, if He Yufeng avoided this strike, Ling Han would really have finished all 10 moves. A 7th heaven had made an empty threat in front of a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, claiming he could withstand 10 moves, but in the end, he truly turned this into reality. Then how would He Yufeng, the pseudo-heavenly Venerate, be able to face others in future? He Yufeng could not dodge. He had to take it head-on and kill Ling Han with his overwhelming strength. He Yufeng humphed coldly, green ribbons of light entwined around his hands, exuding a pressure that far surpassed the celestial king tier. He pressed his hands down on Ling Han. This clash was earth-shattering. Amu, Du Shi, and Qin Yu all paled in shock. They knew themselves well. If it was they that were receiving this strike from either Ling Han or He Yufeng, they would only be severely injured. The only solution would be to dodge the blow. Taking this attack head-on would only be making things difficult for themselves. But He Yufeng being so strong was logical. What was Ling Han's reason for being so awesome, then? It was inconceivable. It was unimaginable. It was unacceptable. Even Lin Piaoxue showed a hint of surprise, nodding internally. Ling Han being able to send out such a blow was really worthy of the grand words that he had previously said. The fury of even an ordinary man could spill blood in all directions. Boom. The attacks sent out by the two great elites finally crashed into each other, forming a great explosion that surpassed regulations. Lin Piaoxue hurriedly moved, suppressing the multiple resulting shock waves. Otherwise, if these shock waves from the clash were allowed to wreak havoc and cause destruction, who knew how many people would be implicated? The majority of them would definitely be killed. It was a terrifying wave of power. Even if Lin Piaoxue had dispelled the major part of the impact, there were still some small ripples that seeped out, causing quite a few people to cough up blood and breaking their bones. They were all astounded. If even a tiny shock wave had been so powerful, then just what kind of terrifying impact had the two people at the center of the battle sustained? When the dust settled, Ling Han was still standing where he had been, but not only had his entire right arm exploded, leaving behind only white bone, even his whole upper body had lost all flesh and blood, leaving behind only his skeleton. However, he was still standing steadily, his eyes exuding a fighting spirit that was soaring sky-high, as if he was a supreme divine sword that had just been unsheathed. Looking back at He Yufeng, he was still holding the position of laying down his right hand. His situation was much, much better than Ling Han's. His robes were all neat and tidy, and he practically had not sustained any injury at all. Only a small cut had been inflicted on the palm of his right hand, blood dripping slowly from it. Seeing this scene, everyone went numb with shock. He Yufeng had been wounded. He Yufeng had actually been wounded. A pseudo-heavenly Venerate, faced with a seventh heaven celestial king, had actually been wounded by his opponent and was bleeding. Good heavens! Everyone was not concerned that Ling Han's wounds were more serious and what kind of price he had paid. They were only aware that a pseudo-heavenly Venerate had been wounded by a seventh heaven celestial king. This was a miracle that had never happened. This was a grand feat that no one had ever dared to imagine was possible. Ling Han was the one who had performed this miracle, and He Yufeng? He was destined to become an eternal afternote that would accompany Ling Han for his whole life. In the future, when anyone spoke of the grand feat that Ling Han had performed today, they would speak of He Yufeng as well, using his humiliation to show off just how freakish Ling Han was. This was Ling Han's fury as an ordinary man. Amazing. His fury was capable of making a pseudo-heavenly Venerate bleed. Was there any other seventh heaven that could do the same? Heavenborn? No. He would only be able to ensure that he did not lose, at most. Du Shi, Amu, Qin Yu? Perhaps if they presently exploded with ultimate moves, they could exchange it for a drop of blood from a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. But when they had been only in the seventh heaven, that would have been merely a delusion. Ling Han smiled evenly, the blood and flesh of his body regrowing at an astonishing speed. The reason why he had come off so badly was actually mostly due to the conflict between the two heavenly Venerate techniques inside his body, so this was considered self-inflicted injury. It would recover very quickly. Now, with the circulation of the indestructible heaven scroll, added with how Ling Han also had void particle energy, his recovery was naturally extraordinarily quick. Lord He, thank you for the guidance. He clasped his fists together. Though Ling Han was speaking very politely, He Yufeng felt his face burn. He knew that he was going to become an eternal joke, juxtaposed with Ling Han to show how freakish Ling Han was. He Yufeng's eyes burned with rage, killing intent blazing. He was going to kill Ling Han. He would definitely not allow him to leave this place alive. When others saw Ling Han in the future, they would speak of his great achievement today, and then step harshly on He Yufeng as well. That was definitely not allowed. He Yufeng was a man that was destined to become a heavenly Venerate. How could he carry such a stain on his name? Die! He Yufeng roared in fury, green light surging from both his hands, and pressing down on Ling Han. Ling Han was freakish. Not only had he clashed with a pseudo-heavenly Venerate for 10 moves, he had even wounded the former, but after 10 moves, he was also at the end of the line. How could he now be able to block the vengeful counterattack of a pseudo-heavenly Venerate? Yet Ling Han did not panic in the least, and merely looked calmly back at the other party. He Yufeng, you have gone too far. Lin Piaoxue moved. Her jade-like arms moved lightly, her fingers like plucked flowers. She looked like she did not hold any internal heat at all, but the might she displayed was extraordinary. Pung! She easily sent He Yufeng into retreat. Though both of them were pseudo-heavenly Venerates, He Yufeng had just advanced to this cultivation level, while it was possible that Lin Piaoxue was about to advance to the next cultivation level. The gap in power between the two of them was extremely wide. He Yufeng took over 100 steps back before finally regaining his footing. His face was completely crimson due to the impact from the blow delivered by Lin Piaoxue, as well as fury. Was it really so difficult for a pseudo-heavenly Venerate to kill a puny 7th heaven? You truly wish to offend our He clan for the sake of this brat? He Yufeng demanded menacingly. Hearing his words, Du Shi and the others shook their heads. With He Yufeng saying this, he meant to use his old man, He Rong, to exert pressure. They were all top-tier prodigies, and their own strength was their true foundation, the true basis for their pride and confidence. Yet He Yufeng had placed his old man on the table now. This actually was him admitting his own incompetence. This naturally garnered their disdain. Immediately, they removed He Yufeng from the list of people who could be their equal. Lin Piaoxue's pretty face was calm, her complexion fairer than snow. It was as if there was no life to her at all. She looked at He Yufeng, her eyes holding a slightly strange look, as if they were filled with sympathy. If you do not want to trifle with our He clan, leave immediately, He Yufeng demanded, pointing at the doors. Sigh, what a dumb brat. A voice rang out slowly. Big brother. The large black dog immediately jumped up. It was the black donkey. The black donkey walked over slowly. He maintained a human-like posture, his 2 front legs crossed behind him and his round belly exposed. His sleazy appearance was not much better than the large black dog's. Greetings, Lord Divine Donkey. Everyone hurriedly bowed in greeting, and even He Yufeng was no exception. Chapter 2680, 2680 Competing in Fathers. Chapter 2680, 2680 Competing in Fathers. 2680 Competing in Fathers. The black donkey was a heavenly Venerate, not a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. So what if He Yufeng had escaped the binds of regulations? The rule that would never disappear and that would exist eternally was only the strong would be respected. Everyone lowered their heads and paid their respects to the black donkey. Even Lin Piaoxue curtsied slightly. Uncle Donkey. Uncle Donkey? The black donkey walked over. Pa. He kicked out a hoof at He Yufeng, sending him onto the ground. He Yufeng was furious. For better or worse, he was also a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, not much inferior to the black donkey, but the latter actually dared to humiliate him like this. Damn brat, I am saving you here. The black donkey stretched out a hoof to step on He Yufeng's face. If your father knew about this, he would probably have to send me flowers to thank me. Everyone's mouth twitched. This donkey was really caustic. He had already stepped on the other person, yet was actually still declaring that this was for the latter's own good. He Yufeng was naturally mad with fury. He swore that he would definitely inform his father of this. No matter how good your relationship with Zhou Heng is, you still can't treat me like this. The black donkey snickered and rapped his hoof on He Yufeng's head. Brat, you are still not giving up? Fine then. I will let you die satisfied. You are using your own father to exert pressure on others, but do you know who her father is? He asked, pointing at Lin Piaoxue. Everyone couldn't help but prick their ears in anticipation, filled with curiosity. They also very much wanted to know what Lin Piaoxue's background was. To think that no one actually knew the origins of a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. This kind of mystery would garner incredible curiosity in the first place. Who? He Yufeng asked stubbornly. Competing in fathers with others, sigh. You are truly too naive. The black donkey still kept them hanging. Only once everyone's neck was stretched out extensively did he finally say slowly, this little girl's father has the surname Lin. No kidding. Everyone was thinking this. Of course, not one of them dared to say this out loud. And he's going by the name Xiaoyang. The black donkey continued calmly. Lin Xiaoyang. Hiss, the 6th-tier heavenly Venerate, Lord Lin Xiaoyang. Then that means, wouldn't Lord Lin Luo then be her grandfather? The Lin clan, Lin Luo is a 7th-tier heavenly Venerate, and his son Lord Lin Xiaoyang is a 6th-tier heavenly Venerate. His 2 disciples, Lord Zhouhong and Lord Yang Chu Hao, are both 6th-tier heavenly Venerates as well. He is a legend among legends. Competing in background with her, haha, this is truly hilarious. In the whole Genesis world, what other force can compare with the Lin clan? There may be some, but it definitely is not the He clan. Some were whispering quietly among themselves, but there were also others that did not have such reservations. That was because they, too, had 3rd-tier, 4th-tier, or even 5th-tier heavenly Venerate elders backing them up. What did they have to fear if it was just a few words of evaluation? Hiss, another pseudo-heavenly Venerate has emerged from the Lin clan. Then, many years later, they would have another heavenly Venerate. This is only Lord Lin Xiaoyang's daughter. I heard that Lord Lin Luo has a daughter as well. Though she was born countless years after Lin Xiaoyang, her natural talent is not the slightest bit weak, either. Perhaps she, too, has long since become a heavenly Venerate. The strength of the Lin clan has reached an unimaginable height. He Yufeng also heard everyone's words and felt extremely embarrassed and angered, yet he did not have the slightest intention to refute what they were saying. Indeed, compared with the Lin clan, any other force was trash. A 7th-tier heavenly Venerate, 3 6th-tier heavenly Venerates, any one of them would be able to conquer more than half of the Genesis world. If he truly became enemies with the Lin clan, his old man would probably kill him with his own hands, and then bring his head as a token of apology to the Lin clan. Dumb brat, now do you know that I am saving you? The black donkey asked. He Yufeng had to admit that it was indeed possible that the black donkey had resolved a danger for him, but using his hoof to step on his face was clearly a deliberate act to humiliate him. The donkey was completely capable of saying this nicely and politely, right? Brother Ling, please come with me. Father wishes to meet you. Lin Piaoxue finally spoke, addressing Ling Han. She ignored He Yufeng completely. Perhaps a mere pseudo-heavenly Venerate was not even worthy of her saying a few more words as far as she was concerned. He Yufeng lowered his head, his heart filled with resentment. This kind of disregard made him feel even worse than the black donkey humiliating him. However, he dared not resent Lin Piaoxue at all. The Lin clan was a colossal force that he definitely could not afford to trifle with. Hence, he relocated all his hatred and fury onto Ling Han. This was the real culprit. He Yufeng was determined to kill Ling Han. Ling Han first nodded at Lin Piaoxue, then looked towards He Yufeng and said, Lord He, what you have bestowed on me today, I will remember dearly. In the future, I will definitely repay you. This naturally was not repaying kindness, but seeking vengeance. A mere 7th heaven, He Yufeng clenched his fists tightly, but he naturally could not be bothered to argue with Ling Han. If a pseudo-heavenly Venerate still had to argue, that would be too demeaning of him. He merely humphed and said, If I ever see you again, that will be the time of your death. Ling Han continued to express his thanks to the 2 celestial kings of the Wang clan, and only then did he exit the abode with the large black dog. Come. Lin Piaoxue led the way, bringing Ling Han and the large black dog towards her vehicle. Shockingly, it was the carriage that was pulled by that yellow ox formed of divine metal. Ling Han and the large black dog exchanged a look, and both of them thanked their good luck. Thankfully, they had not really gone off to knock out the owner secretly. Otherwise, they would have crashed into a steel plate and would probably have been thrashed in return by now. Senior Donkey, is the matter of the Celestial King graveyard already resolved? Ling Han asked the black donkey. These days, Ling Han either would be cultivating in seclusion, or he would be concocting alchemical pills. He had not met the black donkey yet. The black donkey shook his head. That brat had run off really quickly. When Zhou Heng arrived, that place was already completely empty. Who knows where they had all run off to? Ling Han frowned. This was truly a lurking peril. The process of advancing to the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier had been interrupted. This would definitely have serious effects. However, even if it was just 9th heaven celestial kings, with so many of them appearing at the same time, the destruction they could cause would also be incredibly frightening. Even if the sky fell down on us, there would be someone taller to hold it up. Just rest your worries and focus on cultivation. What is important now is to increase your strength as soon as possible, the black donkey said. Ling Han nodded. This time, He Yufeng had used his strength as a pseudo-heavenly Venerate to bully Ling Han, so the latter was infuriated, but it also filled him with fighting spirit at the same time. He was eager to increase his strength. The black donkey left, and Ling Han and the large black dog boarded the carriage. Celestial Maiden Lin, hearing your words, your father wishes to help me advance my cultivation level? Ling Han asked. Correct. Lin Piaoxue nodded. Then, can I bring a few more people with me? Ling Han immediately started bargaining. Who was Lin Xiaoyang? The son of a 7th-tier heavenly Venerate, and he himself was also a 6th-tier heavenly Venerate. When this kind of mighty figure said that he wanted to help Ling Han advance his cultivation level, it was definitely not just a joke. A good opportunity naturally could not be missed. Lin Piaoxue was surprised, and after being taken aback for a moment, she said, You may, but it is not everyone that can tolerate this kind of training. Let's give it a try. Ling Han invited the Rain Emperor. He naturally could not leave his brother out of this. Then, he also brought the Empress and bewitching Maiden Ro with him. They were his wives. Additionally, the large black dog naturally would not be missing out on such benefits. Thus, the 4 people and 1 dog all rode in Lin Piaoxue's carriage, setting off to the Lin clan. On the way there, since they had some idle time, Ling Han couldn't help but ask, Celestial Maiden Lin has not enrolled into the martial academy? No. Though Lin Piaoxue had an astonishingly powerful background, she did not put on any airs at all. As gentle as water, she replied, Actually, descendants of truly great clans would not be enrolling into the martial academy. When they have trained to a certain extent in the clan, they would be sent to battle in the realm battlefield. As long as they can survive, their future prospects will be quite good as well. Just like her. Ling Han couldn't help but perk up. He had already heard of a great many things regarding the realm battlefield. All of a sudden, he really wanted to take a look there. Chapter 2681, 2681 Pool of 9 Deaths. Chapter 2681, 2681 Pool of 9 Deaths. 2681 Pool of 9 Deaths. If you go to the realm battlefield now, it is still too soon, Lin Piaoxue said seriously. The cruelty of the realm battlefield far surpasses your imagination. You must make even more adequate preparations. Ling Han nodded and made no further mention of the realm battlefield. The carriage traveled very quickly. With a creature made of divine metal as horsepower, the speed was naturally amazing. It traveled from one spatial plane to the next, and they arrived at a mountain range over a dozen days later. After entering a specific doorway, the initially endless chain of mountains became even vaster, as if they had entered into a different world. They all disembarked from the carriage, and the golden ox sprawled out lazily, appearing extremely relaxed. The 5 of them strolled slowly onwards. There were structures on every mountain peak, and they could occasionally glimpse children laughing. They were not shy at all. Instead, they kept looking at Ling Han and the others, and the large black dog became the main focus of their attention. After all, It was extremely rare to see such a sleazy-looking dog wearing a pair of iron underwear. Aunt Shui, who are they? Aunt Shui, you're back? Great, Aunt Shui. Did you bring any nice food for us? The children all gathered round, chattering excitedly. Lin Piaoxue was as gentle as water. As she took out some things to distribute to these kids, she proceeded to make introductions for Ling Han and the others about who this was and who that was. This was where the Lin clan was, but it was not just the Lin clan. It also included the relatives of the Lin clan. For example, Lin Piaoxue's maternal relatives all lived here. The members of the Lin clan numbered approximately in hundreds of thousands. There were countless celestial kings in the Lin clan, but there were only about 10 who had reached the heavenly venerable tier, which was a pitifully small number. With the guidance of a 7th tier, heavenly venerate, the number of heavenly venerates was still that small. This showed just how hard it was to become a heavenly venerate. Led by Lin Piaoxue, Ling Han met with Lin Xiaoyang. This was the eldest son of Lin Luo, as well as the present clan leader of the Lin clan. Lin Luo, meanwhile, was constantly standing guard in the realm battlefield. A 7th tier heavenly venerate was the main force in defense against hysteria, so how could he possibly find the time to come back? Lin Xiaoyang looked to be in his 20s. He was young and handsome and had a slender build. He did not exude the slightest pressure and looked as ordinary as any other person. This was what it truly meant to return to one's true self. Greetings, senior. Ling Han bowed respectfully. The Rain Emperor, bewitching Maiden Row, and the large black dog paid their respects as well, and even the Empress suppressed her pride and curtsied slightly. Lin Xiaoyang's temperament was very similar to that of his daughter, nonchalant and calm, as if he could never get angry. He waved a hand dismissively and said, I have heard a lot about you. You are quite impressive. I, as well as junior brother Zhou, both have very great expectations of you. To think a 6th tier heavenly venerate would actually offer such high praise. If this was known to others, Ling Han would definitely become famous instantly. I am not the type that enjoys listening to pleasantries. If you wish to repay me, then advance your cultivation level as soon as possible, Lin Xiaoyang said. I have already opened the pool of 9 deaths for you. Piaoxue will bring all of you inside and explain how to use it. A 6th tier heavenly venerate was naturally very busy. Ling Han and the others all nodded. It was already very kind that Lin Xiaoyang had managed to find some time to meet with them. Lin Piaoxue led them away, and they very soon arrived at a mountain peak. There was a pool at the summit, and it was emitting green-colored fog filled with herbal essence. This is the pool of 9 deaths, Lin Piaoxue said. Ling Han and the others were all surprised. This pool was filled with the aura of life, so it should be called the Pool of Life. Why would it be named the Pool of 9 Deaths instead? Lin Piaoxue shook her head. All creations of the heaven and earth are amazing. In extreme death, life would be nurtured, and in extreme life, a great killing intent would also be hidden. She paused. At the bottom of this pool, there is a divine tree. It was the origin of wood that transcended Tao and rushed to the height of 9th heaven. Unfortunately, it garnered the jealousy of heaven and earth, and when it attempted to break through to the heavenly venerable tier, it failed and died. The essence of the divine tree is abundant and is a supremely valuable medicine, but when the divine tree died, it was struck by the lightning of heaven and earth, so a boundless killing intent is also concealed within it. Afterwards, this pool was further refined by our clan elder, who inserted a considerable number of great herbs. Along with the power of a 7th tier heavenly venerate, the herbal essence in it has become more and more amazing. However, at the same time, the killing intent concealed within has also become more and more violent. If you enter, there is only a very narrow chance of survival, Lin Piaoxue said solemnly. However, if you can survive the killing intent within the medicinal effects, the benefits will also be boundless. Ling Han looked towards the Empress, bewitching Maiden Row, and the Rain Emperor. The 3 of them nodded at him. Why do you not look at Grandpa Dog? The large black dog howled. Do you people think that Grandpa Dog is the type to be afraid of death? We will remember this kindness deeply. Ling Han and the others all said to Lin Piaoxue, ignoring the large black dog completely. Lin Piaoxue nodded. It is all for the sake of the world. With the strength of the Lin clan, they actually no longer needed the gratitude of Ling Han and the others. Their motive was very simple, to oppose hysteria. You can enter into the pool to cultivate, and I will stand guard for all of you, she continued. Ling Han and the others were not reserved at all as they entered into the pool. Instantly, an extremely massive wave of life energy surged into their bodies, pushing their cultivation upwards quickly. Splash! The large black dog also jumped in. Damn dog, you are already at the peak stage of the ninth heaven. What have you come down for? I just want to absorb some nutrients. There's nothing bad about having some more, the large black dog answered shamelessly. Everyone was already long accustomed to how shameless the large black dog could be, so they did not say anything else, but rather concentrated on absorbing the energy inside the pool waters. But very quickly, their expressions changed. This energy was too violent. At the beginning, they could still tolerate it, but it very soon became a destructive tsunami that was raging violently in their bodies, practically crushing their bodies with extreme force. This was not just a feeling. Very soon, they discovered marks of blood appearing on their bodies. That was a sign that the blood vessels in their bodies had burst. You must stay a full day inside the pool, or not only would it not be beneficial at all, it would instead result in harm, Lin Piaoxue said from the sidelines. Fuck, Grandpa Dog has been tricked. If I had known about this, I would not have come in. The large black dog yowled. He was already at the peak stage of the ninth heaven, so it was impossible that he would improve any further. He was just too greedy and could not bear to see others benefit while he could only watch from the sidelines. Thus, he very shamelessly came down with them, and as a result, he was suffering for nothing. Ling Han and the others were all holding on with gritted teeth, continuously absorbing the medicinal effects and turning them into progress for their cultivation level. After a day, the 4 people and 1 dog hurriedly leaped out, all of them panting endlessly, especially the large black dog. He was even tearing up. Come, attack me, Lin Piaoxue said. You guys need to move about to activate the medicinal effects completely. Otherwise, this kind of violent medicinal effect will accumulate in your bodies and exert a very strong effect on you. The 4 humans and 1 dog exchanged looks, and all of them moved, launching an offensive towards Lin Piaoxue. Though she looked unearthly, she was a dignified, great pseudo-heavenly Venerate. If she really became serious, she would not need too many moves to wipe them all out. Now, it was just to help Ling Han and the others move around for a bit, so Lin Piaoxue naturally would not go all out. Instead, she used herself as a target, and no matter how the 5 great elites ganged up on her, she merely dispersed their attacks and would not counter. They fought for a whole 10 days before she finally called a halt. Ling Han and the others inspected themselves and discovered that their cultivation level had actually progressed slightly. It was really a very tiny, small step forwards and was a little negligible. However, to have such progress in just 10 days was extremely shocking. Chapter 2682, 2682, Peak of the Eighth Heaven. Chapter 2682, 2682, Peak of the Eighth Heaven. 2682, Peak of the Eighth Heaven. The medicinal effects had been refined, and the next step would be to enter into the pool of 9 deaths again to absorb some more. However, the facial expressions of the 4 people and 1 dog were extremely ugly. One couldn't just look at the exhilaration brought about by the increase in cultivation level. It was also extremely painful. They felt like they were almost about to collapse. No one would wish to experience it for a second time. Moreover, the pool of 9 deaths wasn't simply an exaggeration. A moment of carelessness would really cause death. Ling Han jumped in first. Needless to say, just thinking about He Yufeng's overbearing and domineering expression gave Ling Han endless motivation to trample on this bastard. This required strength, and the pool of 9 deaths would be able to give him strength. So what if he had to go through pain? After Ling Han, the Rain Emperor entered the pool without the slightest hesitation, followed by the Empress. She might be extremely tsundere, but her heart's desire to pursue strength was also extremely tenacious. Bewitching Maiden Ro hesitated. She really wanted to be strong, but the thought of the pain she had endured before made her back down. The increase in cultivation level. There was no hurry, since there would always be Ling Han anyway. The large black dog was determined not to go into the pool. He had already been deceived once, so he definitely wouldn't want to go through it again. Lin Piaoxue then said, "Although you are at the peak of the 9th heaven, this pool of 9 deaths will still do you good. It can enhance your battle prowess and make it more refined." The large black dog grimaced, but after considering it for quite some time, he eventually entered the pool again. "It hurts Grandpa Dog to death. What kind of sin has Grandpa Dog committed?" he cried out loudly. Lin Piaoxue was utterly speechless. How could there be such a shameless guy? If you couldn't bear it, then you could choose not to enter, and yet after you entered the pool, you still kept screaming like a banshee. It really made one speechless. Everyone absorbed the medicinal effects for one day, and then used the next 10 days to refine the medicinal effects. Their cultivation soared. Half a year, 1 year, 10 years. Time flew. After more than 30 years, Lin Piaoxue stopped keeping watch over them because she found that the 3 people and 1 dog not only had great perseverance, but also top-notch strength and natural talent, and could completely withstand being washed by the medicinal effects. Furthermore, the group of 4, including Ling Han, could also battle one another to refine the medicinal effects, and no longer needed her to keep watch over them all the time. She was a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. It was already enough that she had stood guard over them for more than 30 years. Ling Han and the others continued to cultivate, enduring the suffering inflicted upon their bodies, and marching forward despite going through extreme difficulties. During this period, the 4 of them had experienced several dangerous obstacles which nearly cost them their lives. Fortunately, their willpower was extremely strong, and they survived. 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, and finally 700,000 years had passed in the blink of an eye. Ling Han had reached the peak of the 7th heaven and was qualified to charge towards the 8th heaven. There was no need to temper his foundations any longer, as the 4 were experiencing life and death situations on a daily basis, so their foundations were naturally solid. There was also no need to have a trigger for their breakthrough, as they were engaging in battles almost every day. Moreover, their evolution index was either 11 or 12, so breaking through was naturally something that was only a matter of course. Ling Han took his leave first though was to go through his tribulation. His 8th heaven tribulation already possessed the power of the peak of the 9th heaven, but this was basically the limit. When Ling Han broke through to the 9th heaven in the future, the tribulation that he would go through might only be at this level. Even if the might of the tribulation would be slightly greater than this, there was no way it would be much greater. Kwang. Heaven and earth exhibited its power to stop Ling Han from going one step further. However, since Ling Han had cultivated the indestructible celestial king physique to great accomplishments level, his physique was only slightly worse off than divine metal. Heavenly tribulation could strike him until he was drenched in blood, but that would be about it. It wouldn't be able to go any further. One day later, the heavenly tribulation dissipated. Yet Ling Han did not show any sign of relaxing. Even at the 8th heaven, he was still unable to contend with a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, so he still needed to continue improving. Back at the pool of 9 deaths, Ling Han buried himself in cultivation. Hundreds of thousands of years later, the Empress and the Rain Emperor broke through respectively. Time flew. 7 million years later, Ling Han had advanced his cultivation to the peak of the 8th heaven, but he had encountered a bottleneck and was unable to push through the doors to reach the 9th heaven. On the contrary, the Empress and the Rain Emperor were making great progress, and they were about to catch up to him in cultivation level. Little Han, 9th heaven is the limit of the regulations. This level is not so easy to break through, the large black dog said. You need to experience the world and understand the regulations before you can take this final step. Ling Han nodded. Monarch stars would be able to enter the 9th heaven without any difficulty, but this did not mean that he could watch his cultivation level soar just by sitting still. one would still need to go through the necessary route, and the required process could not be dispensed with. It was just that for some people, even if they were to take such a route, they might never be able to reach the end, and yet Ling Han could not only walk smoothly, but also reach the end very quickly. Grandpa Dog is almost finished here. It's time for us brothers to go out. Brat, when you reach the 9th heaven, you will probably be able to battle even pseudo-heavenly venerates, the large black dog roared. Defeat that little bastard He Yufeng. He has only entered the pseudo-heavenly venerate realm slightly earlier. There's nothing great about it. Ling Han nodded and decided to leave with the large black dog first, whereas the Empress, Bewitching Maiden Row, and the Rain Emperor would continue with their cultivation here. Bewitching Maiden Row would occasionally enter the pool of 9 deaths for cultivation, but the time that she spent entering once was enough for the others to enter more than a dozen times, so the increase in her cultivation level was far from that of Ling Han and the others. The Empress and the others agreed that Ling Han and the large black dog would leave and return to the Martial Academy first. After more than 10 days of traveling in haste, the duo returned to the Martial Academy. In the blink of an eye, more than 7 million years had passed, and the great commotion caused by Ling Han previously had naturally subsided a long time ago. However, when people occasionally noted the names of Zhang San or Li Si on the Eternal Stone, it would make people lament that there had once been an extremely impressive character with the cultivation level of 7th heaven who had injured a pseudo-heavenly venerate within the Martial Academy. Of course, if not for the people who were present at that time, most of the others would still doubt the incident's authenticity. How could a 7th heaven celestial king hurt a pseudo-heavenly venerate? Ling Han and the large black dog were very low-key and quietly entered the Martial Academy without attracting anyone's attention. However, the Martial Academy was only so big, and no matter how low-key the team of 1 person and 1 dog was, they were still noticed, and this soon caused a wave within the Martial Academy. However, the grand event that everyone had anticipated, for Ling Han to battle against He Yufeng once again, did not take place, as He Yufeng had left the Martial Academy millions of years ago already, and it was said that he had gone to the realm battlefield. He Yufeng had naturally been aggravated, but it was definitely not because of Ling Han. No matter how freakish a 7th heaven celestial king was, it wouldn't make him have a sense of urgency. Rather, it was due to Lin Piaoxue, who was also a pseudo-heavenly venerate. He Yufeng felt incomparably small in front of Lin Piaoxue, which prompted him to firmly resolve himself to go to the realm battlefield, seeking to improve his battle prowess through bloody battles. That bastard should consider himself lucky, otherwise Grandpa Dog would surely beat him to death, the large black dog shouted, after he breathed out a sigh of relief. Ling Han shook his head. Although our strength has improved by leaps and bounds, it is still impossible to overcome the obstacle that is the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier. We are definitely not He Yufeng's match. At that time, Ling Han had used 2 heavenly venerate techniques at the same time at the cost of injuring himself, but it had merely caused He Yufeng to sustain a slight injury and bleed a little. Given that he had now advanced his cultivation level to the next level, He Yufeng would be slightly more injured at most. Furthermore, He Yufeng had taken the blow because he had been afraid of losing face at the time, while he could have dodged it completely in reality. If Ling Han was to fight He Yufeng again, would the other party still be limited by an agreement of 10 moves? However, as long as I can make it to 9th heaven, Ling Han's eyes flashed with cold light. At that time, he would have no fear of even a pseudo-heavenly venerate. Chapter 2683, 2683, Divine Demon Sword Undergoes Tribulation. Chapter 2683, 2683, Divine Demon Sword Undergoes Tribulation. 2683, Divine Demon Sword Undergoes Tribulation. Ling Han believed that when he reached the 9th heaven, he would have the strength to battle against a pseudo-heavenly venerate. This was because he had been tempered by void particle energy all this while. In fact, he had long been a pseudo-heavenly venerate, but it was unknown how large the gap in strength between him as a pseudo-heavenly venerate and a real pseudo-heavenly venerate was. However, once Ling Han entered the 9th heaven, and he wouldn't even need to reach the peak, he would then truly be able to stand on the same level as a pseudo-heavenly venerate. And should he reach the peak of the ninth heaven, then he would become a pseudo-heavenly Venerate through and through, with the ability to absolutely crush other pseudo-heavenly Venerates. Why was this? This was because other pseudo-heavenly Venerates used the unique power of heaven and earth to temper their bodies. But Ling Han used void particle energy. Void particle energy was one of the 6 fundamental powers of the Genesis world, and was naturally more powerful than the said unique power. This was superiority in terms of quality. The problem now was that Ling Han had to break through to the ninth heaven first. Soon, a visitor from the Wang clan arrived again. It was still Wang Yangming, who continued to cooperate with Ling Han on behalf of the Wang clan. After millions of years, the Wang clan had collected sufficient divine metal. You actually broke through to the 8th heaven? Wang Yangming was stunned. He knew that Ling Han was extremely freakish, and his strength was so powerful that he could even injure a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, but now this guy advanced from the 7th heaven to the 8th heaven within 10 million years? This speed was indeed overwhelming. Ling Han nodded and didn't say that he had actually reached the peak of the 8th heaven and was only one step away from breaking through to the 9th heaven. What he lacked now was just an opportunity. The two chatted for a while. Ling Han once again expressed his gratitude to the Wang clan, while Wang Yangming also expressed his hope to have a deeper cooperation with Ling Han and to forge a deeper relationship, for example by marrying a certain little princess of their clan, causing Ling Han's face to involuntarily darken. Damn, it has been so long ago, but the Wang clan still hasn't forgotten about it. After Wang Yangming left, Ling Han began to upgrade the Divine Demon Sword. This time round, the Wang clan had sent over a dozen pieces of divine metal in one go, which should be enough for the Divine Demon Sword to advance to the next level. After learning that news, the large black dog was also very excited and ran over to witness the event. As Ling Han took out the Divine Demon Sword, the devouring metal activated instinctively, and it immediately began to devour the divine metal. In the face of devouring metal, as tough as divine metal was, it could only be easily swallowed, and as the essence in it was completely extracted, it turned into dust. 1 piece, 2 pieces, 3 pieces. As more and more divine metal was swallowed by the Divine Demon Sword, this celestial tool exuded a blazing light, and ancient characters started to appear, but they could not be deciphered. Little Han, don't miss out a single word. The large black dog opened his eyes wide. This is the Heavenly Venerable Seals, a language that only Heavenly Venerates can understand, and it can communicate with the fundamental power of the Genesis world. However, the Heavenly Venerates can understand it, but can't manifest it. Only when devouring metal is upgraded to the Heavenly Venerable tier will it stimulate the heaven and earth, which will manifest these supreme characters. Ling Han hurriedly widened his eyes with rapt attention. He quickly discovered that the indestructible Heaven Scrolls contents that he had seen on the Black Tower were somewhat similar to these characters, but they were far less complicated and profound. The Heavenly Venerates naturally had a glimpse of the essence of the Genesis world, and the amazing techniques which they created might be a different approach leading to the same desired effect. It was just that karmic life Heavenly Venerable had merely taken only one step, after all, so at most he would have gotten insight into some kind of fundamental power of the celestial realm, so the technique which he had created was not as profound as this. But thanks to this, the karmic life Heavenly Venerable could pass down the indestructible Heaven Scroll. Otherwise, even a Heavenly Venerate wouldn't be able to write it down. Ling Han couldn't understand it at all, but he gained a lot of insight because he realized that as long as such characters floated in his mind, the efficiency of the void particle energy within him increased many times over. It originally took 1,000 years to sense and extract a void particle, but now it would only take 10 years. It had actually increased by 100-fold. This was mighty amazing indeed. Ling Han was overjoyed at the unexpected turn of events. Even if these characters of the Heavenly Venerate had no other effect, and just improved his ability to sense a void particle, it was already enough. Boom! The Divine Demon Sword suddenly released immeasurable celestial light, tearing the sky apart. The surging of thunderclouds could be seen, and the heavenly tribulation was quickly taking shape. Little Han, Run quickly. A heavenly Venerate tool will face a tribulation, and with our strength, staying nearby is courting death. The large black dog quickly grabbed Ling Han and ran, his face turning white with fright. Ling Han didn't dare to hesitate and immediately ran after him. Xiao, the divine demon sword, shot straight into the sky, facing the heavenly tribulation. There were bursts of lightning, falling towards the divine demon's sword one after another, very close in timing and extremely terrifying. 1,000 instances of tempering, surpassing the level of divine metal. The large black dog sighed. In the past, Grandpa Dog has seen the karmic life heavenly venerable refine the Tower of Three Realms, but at that time, the Lord became a heavenly Venerate, so he could help the Tower of Three Realms fight against the heavenly tribulation together. But now it is all up to the divine demon sword itself. If it can survive, it will truly transcend. Failing, it will turn into dust. Ling Han said nothing. He just looked up at the sky with a firm resolve in his eyes. Ling Han believed that the divine demon sword would definitely be able to survive because it was a precious tool that he had refined himself. With it following him all the way for so many years, his character had been completely integrated into it. Hence, the more setbacks it encountered, the stronger it would become. A heavenly Venerate tool was facing tribulation, so the commotion was so great that the entire martial academy was alerted. Even the two heavenly Venerates who were in charge also opened their eyes and looked into the sky. The layers of bricks and tiles could not block their vision. There is going to be another new heavenly Venerate tool emerging. That's strange. There is no third heavenly Venerate here. Could it be that this heavenly Venerate tool was actually refined by a celestial king? How daring! Are they not fearful of the ruthless heavenly tribulation blasting the core of the precious tool to smithereens, leaving nothing? The two heavenly Venerates sighed, and then withdrew their gazes. They were veteran heavenly Venerates. Naturally, they had already refined heavenly Venerate tools in their own realms, and would not have any ideas about the divine demon sword. Of course, had it not been for the fight against hysteria, which made all the heavenly Venerates put aside their prejudices and come together, then they would definitely have taken action to snatch the sword. Who would think that having another heavenly Venerate tool would be too much? One day later, the heavenly tribulation dissipated. Pa! The divine demon's sword fell from the sky, with only 1/3 of the blade remaining, and the whole thing appeared dull and dim. Sure enough, without the master's support, it couldn't survive. The two heavenly Venerates opened their eyes again and shook their heads. Others in the martial academy had also witnessed it. Even if not all of them recognized this to be a heavenly Venerate tool facing tribulation, they were also thinking that the divine demon sword had failed to ascend to the next level and naturally no longer paid any attention to it. This world had always been like this. Only the successful would be famous for an eternity, while losers would only be immediately swept into the dust of history. The divine demon's sword fell and landed beside Ling Han's feet, the whole blade appearing dull and having lost all its consciousness. It actually failed. The large black dog was filled with disappointment. He had been looking forward to the advancement of the divine demon's sword, and that it would suppress Heavenborn in the future, releasing the spirit of the karmic life heavenly venerable. This had already become his obsession, but now that divine demon's sword failed to advance to the next level, it naturally made him extremely disappointed. Ling Han bent down, picked up the divine demon's sword, and shook his head, saying, "I don't believe it would fail." He possessed such confidence. First, it was because the heavenly tribulation had lasted for a whole day, so the divine demon's sword had indeed survived the heavenly tribulation. Second, this was something that was integrated with his martial intent, his firm and indomitable conviction. So how could it fail? Chapter 2684, 2684 Yun Aokong. Chapter 2684, 2684 Yun Aokong. 2684 Yun Aokong. The large black dog grabbed the divine demon's sword and looked it over repeatedly, yet ended up shaking his head. There is no life to it at all anymore. He gave a flick with his paw. A section of the blade fell down just like that, and with a stomp from him, it immediately turned into dust. This toughness, just how many times was it inferior to divine metal? Ling Han took the sword from him and circulated his divine sense carefully through it. As expected, this divine sword that had originally been filled with life and sharpness had become dead and heavy. There was not the slightest sliver of reaction from it, and it had also lost the sturdy structure of the divine demon sword. It was loose and lax. To say nothing of Ling Han, even if it was just a 3-year-old child, a light tap would probably turn the divine demon sword into the dust of history. Had it really been so madly struck by the heavenly tribulation that it had been completely finished? Ling Han could not believe it. He scanned the blade over and over again. The large black dog sighed, turned, and left. Since the divine demon sword could not advance to become a supreme heavenly Venerate tool, then going to get another was not a realistic plan. They could only wait until either one of them broke through to the heavenly venerable tier. By then, it would be possible to suppress Heavenborn. However, it was possible that this time would come a considerable number of years later. Ling Han would not give up. He kept holding on to his faith. The divine demon sword could be considered a secondary body of his, possessing his unique trait of becoming stronger when encountering setbacks. How could it have possibly been struck dead with just a heavenly tribulation? 3 days later, Ling Han's divine sense had already flowed tens of thousands of times through the divine demon sword. Suddenly, he touched a point. This point was negligible, and it was extremely easy for him to pass it by in a flash. Yet Ling Han discovered that there was a sliver of life left inside this point. He studied it carefully, and a hint of a smile appeared at the corners of his lips a while later. This kind of life surpassed divine metal. Though there was just a sliver, it could suppress all in terms of quality. The divine demon sword had indeed survived the heavenly Venerate tribulation, but because it had not had the protection of its master, it had also been incredibly difficult for it to undergo the heavenly Venerate tribulation. Paying the price of being practically completely destroyed, the sword had managed to survive. Thus, after undergoing the heavenly tribulation, it had not shone in brilliance. Instead, it was like it had failed to survive the heavenly tribulation and had directly dropped down from the skies, so everyone thought that it had failed. But even if it had succeeded, this price was too great. Practically the whole sword had been destroyed and turned into scrap metal. It's fine. As long as the core is there, it can be repaired. Ling Han thought. Even for a cultivator, as long as they had survived the heavenly tribulation, no matter how severe the injuries, they could be healed. By then, their strength would soar and surpass their previous strength completely. Once the divine demon sword was repaired, it would be a truly supreme heavenly venerable tool and advance to that strongest level. Ling Han did not inform the large black dog and decided to wait until the divine demon sword recovered to give this guy a surprise. Next, Ling Han began concocting alchemical pills. Since he had already accepted fees from the Wang clan, he should deliver upon the promised time. Moreover, the Wang clan had previously supported him even if it meant becoming enemies with the He clan. Ling Han had to acknowledge this debt. After working for several months, Ling Han finally completed his mission. When Wang Yangming came, Ling Han asked him about the recent events in the martial academy. Aside from the fact that He Yufeng had gone to the realm battlefield, so had Heavenborn. Heavenborn was still a 7th heaven, but why was he able to go to the realm battlefield? That naturally was because his physique was too amazing. His physique was at the level of divine metal, and his defenses went all the way up to the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier. Thus, as long as he was being careful, he would still be able to help here and there at the realm battlefield at the very least. Ling Han hesitated. Should he go to the realm battlefield? He had not made his decision yet, but the news of his return had already spread out in the martial academy, which also caused some people to pay him a visit. Just a few days later, a person appeared in front of his abode. It was like someone was about to die. He was banging strongly and loudly at Ling Han's door. This was too vulgar. Ling Han opened the doors and saw a young man that looked to be in his 20s standing in the doorway. There were 4 ribbons of iridescent light wrapped around him. his vitality very energetic and filled with heroic spirit. This man was very handsome, but it was unfortunate that the pride in his expression was too strong. It was as if he was looking down in disdain on the rest of the world, as if everyone should kneel down in front of him. "So you are Ling Han?" this young man asked boldly. "Pa." Ling Han sent a slap right over. How could that young man manage to dodge? Immediately, he was sent to the ground with this strike, passing out completely. How rude. Ling Han shook his head. Though he was using his superior strength to bully someone weaker, and had been the first to make a move, the fact that a mere fourth heaven dared to treat an eighth heaven celestial king like this was in itself an act of provocation. Even if he was beaten, he would deserve it. Ling Han had no worries that he had broken the rules of the martial academy. Moreover, Ling Han was just quietly staying at home and hadn't trifled with anyone. Wasn't the other party just asking to be beaten? Ling Han slammed the doors shut and returned, continuing to nurture the divine demon sword. This sword had the same origins as Ling Han. His martial intent could stimulate the recovery of the divine demon sword, and this was something that only he could do. That young man simply lay like that at Ling Han's doors. There would be people passing by now and then, and when they saw this, they couldn't help but feel amused. Isn't that Yun Aokong from the Yun clan? A fourth heaven monarch star, and the Yun clan has placed very high hopes on him. Why would he be lying here? Isn't this the abode of Ling Han, that bringer of calamity? Hiss, Yun Aokong must have angered Ling Han, and that is why he has been knocked out. But there doesn't seem to have been any conflicts between him and Ling Han, right? I don't get it. When this news spread out, a great many people who had planned to visit Ling Han gave up that idea. How could Ling Han be so overbearing? Even the young master of the Yun clan was not worthy of entering. Though Yun Aokong was only a fourth heaven celestial king, the grand elder of the Yun clan was a third-tier heavenly venerate. Could it be that Ling Han was really related to the Ling clan? Otherwise, how could he be so domineering? Yun Aokong only regained consciousness after being out cold for 3 whole days. He hurriedly scrambled to his feet, his expression slightly dazed, but immediately he flew into a fury out of humiliation. He had actually been knocked unconscious here. Though he did not know how long had passed, it would definitely not have been any short period of time. There were definitely others that had witnessed his embarrassment. Damn! Pong, pong, pong. He began knocking on the doors again. After a while, the doors could finally be seen opening, revealing that face of Ling Han that was filled with impatience. Ling Han, you are too arrogant. I am of the Yun clan. Pong! Ling Han's hand descended, and another slap knocked Yun Aokong unconscious. He could not be bothered with whatever Yun clan, Ma clan, or whatchamacallit. At the moment, his focus was completely on mending the divine demon sword. There just happened to be people who witnessed this, and the news instantly spread throughout the whole martial academy. The young master of the Yun clan had been knocked out at Ling Han's door 2 times in a row. When everyone heard this news, they first erupted into laughter, and then shook their head. Ling Han was truly one who dared to oppose a pseudo-heavenly venerate. He did not even take the Yun clan to heart. True, the He clan also had a grand elder that was a 4th-tier heavenly venerate, and Ling Han was still not seen to hold much fear, either. Another 3 days later, Yun Aokong slowly came back to his senses. His whole face was flushed crimson, and his expression darkened. As the most outstanding heir of the present generation of the Yun clan, he had naturally grown up under the protection of countless people since childhood. Furthermore, who would not give some face to a 3rd-tier heavenly venerate? Thus, he had never encountered any setbacks before. But in this place, he had been knocked out before he had even finished speaking, and was just lying at another's door like that, exposed completely to the elements. He really was about to go crazy. However, remembering his mission, Yun Aokong forcefully suppressed his fury. He could not just return miserably like this, after all, right? He knocked on the doors again, but he was using much less force this time. He had finally learned his lesson. Chapter 2685 2685 Old Debts. Chapter 2685 2,685 old debts. 2685 old debts. A while later, Ling Han came out to open the doors. Ling Han, I am of the Yun. Peng. The unfortunate Yun Aokong spoke just a few words before being knocked out again. 3 days later, he slowly came to for the third time. His first reaction was to kill Ling Han, and he was going to swallow and skin him alive at that, but remembering how he had been knocked out 3 times in a row, he finally woke up to reality. Ling Han was a great man who dared to oppose even a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. Actually, he had not believed in this kind of rumor. For a 7th heaven celestial king to be capable of wounding a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, wasn't that the greatest joke in the world? But now, he was starting to believe it. At the very least, this guy's courage was indeed astonishingly great. With such thoughts, Yun Aokong had finally learned his lesson and knocked cautiously on the doors. The doors opened, and Ling Han appeared. I am Yun Aokong. Greetings, senior brother Ling. Yun Aokong corrected his attitude and bowed towards Ling Han with his fists clasped together. He was feeling uneasy. He wouldn't be knocked out with one strike again, would he? He had already been traumatized. In the end, Ling Han made no further move. After these few times, this young man finally understood the meaning of rules and how to respect others. He asked, "What is it?" Yun Aokong's mouth twitched a bit. He had been knocked out 3 times, and finally managed to get a chance to speak seriously. It had truly been very difficult. Thinking of his business here, his arrogance returned. I have come on behalf of the Yun clan to ask senior brother Ling to concoct alchemical pills for us for 100 million years for free. Pa. His words had just fallen, and he was once again knocked out cleanly by Ling Han. Ling Han gritted his teeth. Even if they came to him, bearing various kinds of natural treasures, concocting alchemical pills would still be up to his mood at the time. Had every single member in this Yun clan had their heads kicked by a donkey? They actually demanded that he concoct alchemical pills for them for 100 million years for free. Fuck. Idiots. At present, he no longer needed divine metal. What he needed was ingredients that could help boost his physique to the level of indestructible divine metal physique. These might not be as valuable as divine metal, but they were strange and rare, and the difficulty level of obtaining such materials had increased several hundred times over. He had asked the Wang clan to search on his behalf, but it was possible that he would not be able to collect all of them even after several 100 million years. Thus, even if the Yun clan had come with divine metal as well, he would not give them any regard. What more when they were demanding that he do it for free? Did they think he was stupid? This time, Ling Han's force was considerably stronger because Yun Aokong only regained consciousness after 7 days. Shaking his head, he raised a hand to rub his head, and his expression became livid. By now, his head was as swollen as a pumpkin. Ling Han, he forced out through gritted teeth, but he hadn't said all he had come to say. There was no way he would return just like this, so he could only knock on the doors again. The doors opened to reveal Ling Han. Don't move. Let me finish my words. Yun Aokong hurriedly exclaimed, and even used his arms to protect his head. He was really traumatized by the repeated strikes. Seeing how Ling Han had not hit him, he hurriedly exclaimed, Don't think that our Yun clan has gone too far. Our Grand Elder has said that you should not forget that the Celestial King graveyard was destroyed on your account. Ling Han was slightly taken aback before realization immediately dawned on him. When he came back to report the matter of Desolate Moon's conspiracy, causing Zhou Hong to step in and forcefully destroy the Celestial King graveyard, only a limited few people had managed to leave alive. That was because the majority of them had already been affected by the Black Qi, which was Hysteria's willpower, so they could only be killed. Actually, he had done them a great service. Otherwise, if tens of thousands of pseudo-heavenly venerates appeared, who knew what kind of frightening damage would be caused? However, some forces thought that it was Ling Han who had cut off one of their sources of income. Ascending Dragon Pill. Outside, no one dared to sell Ascending Dragon Pills openly, because this thing was really too filthy. It was formed by being irrigated with the blood and flesh of celestial kings, but these great forces could use it to boost the strength of their own clansmen. When they were all strong, they naturally had a greater say in things, and could then earn even more profits. For the sake of this, they had even sent their own clansmen there, and one example was the Azure Ghost Celestial King. But with the trouble caused by Ling Han, the Celestial King graveyard was completely gone, which naturally cut off the supply of ascending dragon pills as well. It was definite that a great many forces would be angered by this. The Yun clan was the first to seek him out for a reckoning. They could not demand compensation from Ling Han directly. After all, the matter of the Celestial King graveyard could not be discussed openly. Thankfully, Ling Han was also a great alchemist, so they had gotten the idea to demand him to concoct alchemical pills for them for 100 million years for free. How truly delusional. Pa. Ling Han knocked Yun Aokong out with another smack. 9 days later, Yun Aokong finally regained consciousness. This time, he did not knock on the doors again, but rather turned and left. He had finally said all he had come to say. Since Ling Han was being so stubborn, he'd just wait to meet the fury of the Yun clan. However, just to say these few simple words, Yun Aokong had actually been knocked out 5 times. Just the thought of it depressed him, and he was cursing Ling Han half to death in his heart. After Yun Aokong left, another few people paid Ling Han a visit. They either were polite or would be threatening. However, all they said was more or less the same, and that was demanding that he compensate them for the losses incurred due to the destruction of the Celestial King graveyard by concocting alchemical pills for them for free. Ling Han naturally ignored all of them. Be it beating them up or chasing them away, he did all of it. If it were not for the fact that it was not proper to kill people in the martial academy, he really would rather be merciless so that he could finally get some peace. After Yun Aokong and the others returned and described Ling Han's attitude, it naturally garnered the great displeasure of the various great forces. As they saw it, Ling Han had ruined the Celestial King graveyard, and now he was actually going to slip away, forgetting the matter entirely? How could there be such a good thing in this world? Not long after, a great many Ninth Heaven Celestial Kings entered into the Martial Academy, planning to deal with Ling Han. As for the Heavenly Venerates, all the Heavenly Venerates had gone to the realm battlefield as per their agreement. They could only return for a period of rest after battling countless years. Thus, whether you were a 3rd tier, 4th tier, or 5th tier Heavenly Venerate force, there was no way you could ask for the interference of a Heavenly Venerate. Moreover, what kind of big deal was this? To ask a 3rd tier or 4th tier Heavenly Venerate to interfere just to deal with a 7th Heaven Celestial King. Naturally, they did not know that Ling Han had already advanced to the 8th heaven. When 9th Heaven Celestial Kings moved, as long as there were enough of them, they could even oppose a Pseudo Heavenly Venerate, so suppressing a puny 7th Heaven Celestial King was naturally no issue. Inside the abode, Ling Han breathed out a long sigh of relief. He spread open his hand, and a small sword lay in his palm. It really was very small, not even half an inch long, but though it might look small, it emanated a frightening aura, and even Heavenly Venerates would be moved. A Heavenly Venerate tool. With Ling Han's nurturing, the Divine Demon Sword had already recovered to the present size from its initial size of a point. It was growing up just like a child. Pong, pong, pong. Right at this moment, a knock rang out from the doors again. Ling Han sighed. Was he really too amicable, and that was why people kept coming to cause trouble for him? He stood up, and the Divine Demon Sword was also immediately covered with rust. Its size rapidly grew. These bits of metal had all fallen off the Divine Demon Sword, so they had a certain level of nurturing effects as well. He went out to open the doors. Amazing! There were actually over 39th Heaven Celestial Kings standing at his doorway. All of them had unleashed their auras, having absolutely no reservations. Aside from them, there were also young people like Yun Aokong. They, on the other hand, were standing very far away, all of them crossing their arms over their chests and looking coldly at Ling Han. They wanted nothing more than to watch Ling Han be stomped into the ground, because they were all victims and had suffered before in Ling Han's hands. Ling Han, you are truly outrageously bold. You still refuse to confess your crimes after causing such great trouble? A ninth heaven celestial king spoke up in rebuke, directly finalizing Ling Han's crime. Ling Han smiled slightly. It is best not to expose the matter of the celestial king graveyard. If you guys get lost now, I will not be bothered to drop to the same level as you guys either. Otherwise, do not blame me for being ruthless. Chapter 2686, 2686 Surrounded. Chapter 2686, 2686 Surrounded. 2686 Surrounded. The ninth heaven celestial kings would naturally not take this kind of threat seriously, to say nothing of the fact that Ling Han was only a seventh heaven, even if he was a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. So what? About 10 of them working together would be able to block him, and when more than 30 peak stage ninth heaven celestial kings moved at the same time, even a pseudo-heavenly Venerate would shudder a bit. This brat is unreasonable. Looks like we can only take him down. That's right. Take him down. If we do not teach this kind of person a good lesson, it will damage the prestige of the martial academy. We cannot allow a bad apple like this to ruin the image of the martial academy. These celestial kings all showed their ugliness here. Regulations were being channeled, and they were about to make their move. They were arrogant enough to actually make a move in full public in the martial academy. They were unafraid, because they all had the backing of heavenly Venerates, and they had long since given prior notice to the 2 heavenly Venerates that were presently overlooking the martial academy. It was fine as long as Ling Han returned to the martial academy unharmed at the end. Of course, that was the bottom line as well. If disciples were injured under their watch, that would be truly inexcusable as well. It was not an assault from hysteria, after all. Ling Han's eyes swept over them, and he said, "Aside from those kids behind you, you all don't belong to the martial academy. Am I right?" "So what about it?" These ninth heaven celestial kings all responded disdainfully. Ling Han revealed a grin filled with killing intent. "In that case, it will be fine even if I kill all of you." "How dare you?" These ninth heaven celestial kings all rebuked coldly. A seventh heaven celestial king actually dared declare that he would kill all of them. They really had no idea where he got his courage from. "Ling Han, do you need help?" Du Shi's voice rang out. He stood proudly in midair, making no move to conceal his peak stage ninth heaven aura. Who knew how much stronger he was than other ninth heaven celestial kings? It was extremely possible that his evolution index had already reached 12. "Hee, if you do, I do not mind interfering either. Can you also appeared?" He crossed his arms over his chest, his eyes turning red. His killing intent seemed to have already been ignited. "I am here as well." Amu appeared at another side. The 3 great big shots appeared at the same time, and they all seemed very unconcerned. They did not take these ninth heaven celestial kings to heart at all. Ling Han laughed and said, "Thank you. However, they are just some trash. I am more afraid that there are not enough of them for me to kill." Damn! Those ninth heaven celestial kings were all fuming with rage. It was one thing that Amu and company were so domineering. They were all famous freaks, and it was publicly acknowledged that they were capable of becoming heavenly Venerates. The only question was just how much time they needed. But who did Ling Han think he was? He was nothing but a 7th heaven celestial king. Did he think that just because he managed to make He Yufeng bleed, he was already a pseudo-heavenly Venerate himself? No way. "Brat, let me teach you the proper way to behave." A 9th heaven celestial king jumped out, and then grabbed out at Ling Han. This strike was extremely direct, using the 9th heaven celestial king's cultivation level to overwhelm Ling Han. There were 9 heavens in the celestial king tier, every single step forwards as difficult as ascending the heavens. Cultivation level was the greatest advantage a celestial king could have, because the regulations they could extract at different cultivation levels were completely different. Ling Han stood motionlessly and waited until the assault of this 9th heaven celestial king almost reached him before he finally threw a punch. But when this fist moved, it was as fast as a streak of light. Pong! His fist pierced through his opponent's offensive, the force of the punch penetrating deeply. And when the expression of that celestial king changed dramatically, the force of the blow had already reached him. With crushing power, he was instantly sent flying. Wah! That celestial king collapsed onto the ground, throwing up blood continuously. Instantly, a dead silence fell. What's going on? A seventh heaven celestial king actually punched so hard that it caused a ninth heaven celestial king to throw up blood? Eighth heaven. When Ling Han moved, 8 ribbons of iridescent light immediately appeared around him. Not even 10 million years have passed, and he has already advanced from the 7th heaven to 8th heaven. He truly is a freak. But even if he is an 8th heaven celestial king, to defeat a 9th heaven celestial king with a single punch, this is really too inconceivable. The expressions of those 9th heaven celestial kings all changed drastically. They had never imagined that Ling Han was actually so powerful. This was a 9th heaven celestial king. It was extremely hard to break through to the 9th heaven. No matter how freakish Ling Han was, he would also be stuck at the 9th heaven for a period of time, and after he crossed this threshold, his strength would also spike. Thus, there were definitely no weaklings among those who could advance to the 9th heaven. They were all elites that had reached the standards required. Even such big shots like Amu and Du Shi would only be able to oppose 4 to 5 9th heaven celestial kings at the same time. How could Ling Han be so strong? Amu and the other big shots all showed hints of surprise. The present Ling Han was already completely equipped with the qualifications to stand against them. Then, wouldn't Ling Han be able to suppress them once he broke through? Just how was this brat cultivating? The reason was very simple. That was because Ling Han was using void particle energy to temper himself. He was technically a pseudo-heavenly Venerate himself, but he was still limited to the 8th heaven. It naturally was no issue for him to match a peak stage 9th heaven celestial king. At this moment, all the 9th heaven celestial kings felt grim. They finally knew that it was not because Ling Han enjoyed boasting that he dared to say such a thing, but rather that he really did have the strength, and this strength reached a level far beyond anyone's imagination. There is no need to worry. There are more than 30 peak stage 9th heaven celestial kings here. As long as we all work together, it is still a small matter for us to take this brat down, a 9th heaven celestial king of the Yun clan said. That's right. More celestial kings nodded. An 8th heaven celestial king was only just an 8th heaven celestial king. Faced with a force like them, even a pseudo-heavenly Venerate would have to take a few steps back. Ling Han took a deep breath and said evenly, "Today, I will use the heads of 9th heaven celestial kings like you to establish my reputation. I truly would like to see if there would be others that would dare to stretch out their paws towards me in future." Shameless talk. All the 9th heaven celestial kings were exploding with fury. Ling Han did not waste any more words. He moved. Pong. Exerting force from his feet, he stomped on the ground, and his whole person instantly shot into the skies at an extraordinary speed. Don't even think of running. All the 9th heaven celestial kings hurriedly set off in hot pursuit, fearing that Ling Han would escape. Ling Han was all alone, but there were many 9th heaven celestial kings. It was definitely impossible that they all had the same speed. Furthermore, to prevent Ling Han from escaping, the faster celestial kings would naturally race out at full speed, not daring to hold the slightest bit back. In this manner, the over 30 celestial kings instantly became a long line of people. It was at this moment that Ling Han suddenly made an about turn. He suddenly halted, and then charged back downwards, his fists waving furiously. The 9 Transformations Divine Scroll was already being channeled, and with the present force of Ling Han's fists, even a pseudo-heavenly Venerate would have to sustain considerable injury if they were hit. How could the foremost celestial king expect that Ling Han would actually dare to turn around and charge back towards them? He did not have any time to dodge at all. He hurriedly concentrated all his power into his hands, which were wrapped with great Tao as he rushed forth to meet Ling Han's incoming offensive. Pong! They exchanged blows once, and it was visible that the hands of that celestial king had instantly been crushed from the impact, turning into shreds of blood and flesh that flew in all directions. Moreover, his skin was rippling like the waves of water. Pong, pong, pong. His arms looked like they were each an open umbrella, leaving behind only a skeletal frame as blood and flesh were flying out from the impact in an arc. Ah! That celestial king screamed out in pain. This injury was really too serious. And with this delay, the other celestial kings also caught up, and they all directed their respective attacks at Ling Han. Ling Han couldn't help but sigh. He was only at the 8th heaven, after all, and was not a genuine pseudo-heavenly Venerate. Even if he had prepared for this attack fully and carefully, he had only caused serious injury to his target, but could not kill him with a single punch. Chapter 2687, 2687, Killing Ninth Heaven Celestial Kings. Chapter 2687, 2687, Killing Ninth Heaven Celestial Kings. 2687, Killing Ninth Heaven Celestial Kings. But the people who saw this scene from below were absolutely stupefied. Although Ling Han had once knocked back a Ninth Heaven Celestial King with a single strike, it was possible that that Celestial King had been careless and had not gone all out. However, the current situation was different. Everyone already knew how freakish Ling Han was, and yet the opponent was still injured by a single strike from Ling Han, which meant that Ling Han's strength was insane. However, the 30-odd Celestial Kings had already caught up and surrounded him. It's over now. Having fallen into this encirclement, it's impossible for Ling Han to escape. Unless he is a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. 10 Celestial Kings at the peak of the 9th heaven could only take on a pseudo-heavenly Venerate and just barely manage a tie, but if one really wanted to bury a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, it would be completely impossible to do so without 100 or so Celestial Kings at the peak of the 9th heaven. Hence, it would have been naturally easy for a pseudo-heavenly Venerate to break through such a siege. But in Ling Han's case, it was impossible no matter what. Unless the two lords in charge of the Martial Academy take action. That's impossible. These 9th heaven Celestial Kings dare to take action publicly. Obviously, they must have already given them prior notice. As long as they don't seriously injure Ling Han. Below them, Yun Aokong and the other young people kept sneering, expressing delight as they were finally going to see the devil who tortured them pay the price. Amu, Du Shi, and Ken Yu looked at each other, and all of them frowned slightly. They were thinking, how would they resolve such a predicament if it were them? Confronting the enemies forcefully would definitely lead to adverse consequences. Even if one could kill off a few Celestial Kings, one would eventually be overwhelmed. What was Ling Han to do? Simple. With a loud battle cry, he fought wildly without any reservations. Reckless, too reckless. Wasn't this accelerating his defeat? Boom! All the 9th heaven Celestial Kings launched their attacks together, the regulations circulated dazzlingly, and the regulations of the Great Tao exploded with such monstrous power that even a pseudo-heavenly Venerate would probably frown, right? Ling Han threw punches to counter the attacks, but there were too many attacks. Some of the attacks were neutralized by him, while some were not, and they hit him. However, a terrifying scene appeared. These attacks that hit Ling Han's body splattered into brilliant rays of light, but they couldn't break through his defense. What? All the Celestial Kings were stunned. This was mind-blowing. What kind of defense did this brat possess? It was practically supernatural. Indestructible Celestial King Physique. Having cultivated such a physique, even if all the 9th heaven Celestial Kings blasted him together, it still wouldn't cause any wounds. Only a pseudo-heavenly Venerate could cause damage to this kind of physique. So, what did Ling Han have to fear? He rampaged through the group of Celestial Kings and launched attacks arbitrarily. He didn't need to be concerned about defense at all. Below, everyone who was witnessing all this was dumbstruck. He actually possessed such a supernatural physique? Perhaps it wouldn't lack by much even when compared to Heavenborn's. Perhaps the defense of Heavenborn would be slightly stronger, but the question was, would the battle prowess of Heavenborn be able to tear through Ling Han's defense? It was fine as long as it was useful enough. Ling Han shouted and punched furiously with both fists. Not only were these forces unappreciative of his contributions, They even blamed him for the destruction of the Celestial King graveyard. This made him extremely angry. In his opinion, these people ought to be thrown into the realm battlefield and fend for themselves or perish on their own. Well then, let him clean them up now. Ling Han delivered blows without any qualms. Within just 30 minutes, more than a dozen Celestial Kings were injured by him. However, as Ling Han couldn't keep channeling the 9 transformations Divine Scroll or the 5 elements lightning technique all the time, these Celestial Kings were only slightly injured. He wasn't very satisfied. He had originally planned to kill a few of them. However, such battle prowess stunned each and every one of them. Was Ling Han a pseudo-heavenly Venerate? Being besieged by more than 39th Heaven Celestial Kings, not only was he not suppressed, he injured more than a dozen Celestial Kings instead. There was no one else with such battle prowess. Unleash your ultimate technique. Those Celestial Kings flew into rage due to humiliation and felt that their faces were hot with embarrassment. The fact that so many Celestial Kings had joined forces to besiege an 8th Heaven Celestial King already made them lose face, and they were even injured by their opponent. In the future, how could any of them be able to hold their head high? A dozen or more Celestial Kings continued to tie up Ling Han, and the other Celestial Kings began launching ultimate attacks to destroy Ling Han in one fell swoop. This was a shameless move, but very effective. A dozen or more Celestial Kings could detain even a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, so of course they could block Ling Han as well. Therefore, Ling Han could only look helplessly at those Celestial Kings launching powerful attacks, but could do nothing at all to stop them. Subdue him. 7 Celestial Kings took the lead in gathering power and blasted out terrifying attacks. Boom, boom, boom. More Celestial Kings launched powerful attacks to suppress Ling Han. The endless radiance shone brightly and dispersed in a dazzling manner, like beautiful fireworks, but all the people watching the battle were thinking the same thing. Such a fierce attack had better not kill Ling Han, as that would be a big problem, and the Lin clan might appear. What kind of existence was the Lin clan? With a 7th-tier heavenly Venerate in charge, even if Lin Luo would not appear personally, Zhou Hong, Lin Xiaoyang, or Chu Hao could just walk out and defeat 99% of the Genesis world. Who could afford to provoke them? The radiance of the attacks dissipated, and what could be seen in the center of the battle zone was a streak of golden light transforming into a spherical shape. Ling Han. He had activated the indestructible Heaven Scroll and directly blocked the powerful attacks of the Celestial Kings. He was practically unscathed. He was still injured. There were wounds on his arms and lower abdomen, but they were only minor injuries. After all, there were about 30 Celestial Kings at the peak of the 9th Heaven who had blasted powerful attacks simultaneously, so even indestructible Heaven Scroll wasn't able to prevent him from getting any injury. However, such injuries were naturally trivial, and it was impossible for them to affect his battle prowess. They had to be seeing things. All the Celestial Kings were numb with shock. Such defensive power practically made them feel hopeless. There was absolutely no solution. Ling Han's killing intent was blazing, and he finally took out the Divine Demon Sword. If he wanted to break through the defenses of these Celestial Kings and start killing them, it was absolutely impossible to do it with just his own strength. Then he would use the most supreme precious tool. Ha ha ha. When they saw Ling Han taking out such a weapon, all the 9th Heaven Celestial Kings laughed out loud. Did you take out something so tattered just for the fun of it? They had not used any celestial tool. Firstly, it was because divine metal was rare, and it was not possible that every single person could obtain a piece. Secondly, they wanted to capture Ling Han, so they naturally would not use any celestial tools. Otherwise, it was possible that he would be killed or injured severely, which wasn't their original intention. Just now, they were shocked because all their powerful attacks were blocked by Ling Han, but now they were laughing hilariously. Ling Han also laughed. Now these people were laughing, but they would be crying later. He took a step, his body art exploded, and his speed was so great he was already in front of one person. He slashed out with his sword. Now all these Celestial Kings knew that his body art was amazing, so they moved in groups of 2. When one person was being attacked, the other person would help to cope with it. Hence, two great celestial kings simultaneously sent out attacks to counter Ling Han. Pooh! Cold light dazzled, and the 9 heavens shook. Although the two celestial kings had blasted out their attacks, in the midst of the swirling of the cold light, they were undoubtedly cut in half. Slashed at the waist like they were nothing. What was going on here? Even if the tattered and broken sword was a celestial tool, 9th heaven celestial kings also stood at the peak of the regulations. With them entwined in great Tao, not even a celestial tool could kill them. But with one slash, both celestial kings were cut in half. This was too ridiculous, wasn't it? After a long time, someone finally stuttered with great difficulty, Heavenly Venerate tool. Chapter 2688, 2688 regarded as a great emperor. Chapter 2688, 2688 regarded as a great emperor. 2688 regarded as a great emperor. Heavenly Venerate tool, supreme might. Ling Han stood with his sword in hand. It was speckled with rust like a knife that had been kept for a long time in a woodshed. But who would dare to underestimate this sword now? This was a supreme precious tool, and killing celestial kings was like child's play. So what if Ling Han's strength was low? Even if it was a 10-year-old child holding a peerless divine sword, the consequences of an adult taking it on point blank would still only cause him grievous injuries. Furthermore, Ling Han's strength wasn't feeble at all, and not in the least inferior to the peak of the 9th heaven. In fact, he could even suppress them in reverse. For a while, blood rained from the sky, mourning the passing of the two celestial kings. All the celestial kings were trembling. They had never thought that the situation would have developed to such a state. Now, do you all feel the pain? Ling Han said menacingly, and he slashed out again without the slightest hesitation. Since he had already started killing, why would he restrain himself anyway? He wouldn't mess with people voluntarily, but if anyone were to mess with him, he would hit them until they experienced bone-deep pain. Kill! Ling Han burst out with the power of body art, and his speed was astonishing. He was slashing out with the divine demon sword in hand, not needing any technique at all. This was the invincibility of an ultimate weapon. Immediately, the 30-odd celestial kings fled in all directions. There was already an example laid out in front of them. Two great 9th heaven celestial kings were easily cut into halves easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. When the destructive power of the supreme precious tool swept past them, any celestial king would only be killed on the spot. Who would want to be the third one? They were originally just an unruly mob, and naturally they would be united when they had the upper hand. But in the face of danger, they would naturally care only for themselves, with no regard to the life or death of others. However, Ling Han was even faster. He caught up with one, slashed out with the divine demon sword, and sure enough, this celestial king was cut in half. Blood splattered all over, and once again triggered a great natural calamity. The last time Ling Han had started killing like this, he had depended on the Black Tower for a power boost to slaughter many celestial kings in the foreign realm. After so many years had passed, he could finally slaughter celestial kings with his own strength. Moreover, they were all 9th heaven celestial kings, and their bearing was on a different level completely. After climbing in the world of martial arts for so many years, Ling Han had finally reached the pinnacle of the celestial path and possessed the qualifications to look down on the rest of the world. He could be regarded as a great emperor. Ling Han kept up his hot pursuit, and the awful screaming continued. He caught up with one celestial king after another, and they were each slashed by his sword. With his strength and the power of the divine demon sword, no one could block any of the sword's attacks. However, by the time Ling Han had killed the 11th person, the remaining celestial kings had already escaped into the distance, and it was impossible to catch up to them. However, he had killed 11 celestial kings in one battle and scared off the remaining 20 or so, and they were all celestial kings at the peak of the 9th heaven at that. Wasn't this enough? He's the strongest celestial king by far, no? Absolutely. Even if He Yufeng were to come over, he wouldn't succeed. He would only be beaten up badly and flee in disgrace. It's not that He Yufeng is weak, but that the heavenly Venerate tool is too powerful. Who would have thought that Ling Han would actually take out a heavenly Venerate tool, one so incomparably domineering that it resolved the situation and firmly establish his status as a great emperor of celestial kings? After this battle, it is likely that there won't be another celestial king who would dare to challenge Ling Han. Amu and the others also shook their heads. If it was a fair fight, they would naturally not be afraid of Ling Han. However, if it was a celestial king with a heavenly Venerate tool in hand, even they would be helpless. This battle had far-reaching consequences. The noble clans involved were all trembling. They didn't expect Ling Han's strength to be so powerful. Which of them would dare to cause trouble to Ling Han again? More than 10 ninth heaven celestial kings had died in vain, who asked them not to be disciples of the martial academy. If the heavenly Venerates in the realm battlefield wouldn't return, Ling Han would really be able to do anything he liked in the whole realm, and probably even pseudo-heavenly Venerates might not be able to suppress him, right? As Ling Han's figure descended, he cast a glance at Yun Aokong and the others and said lightly, "Don't worry, I won't touch any of you. As long as you don't take the initiative to provoke me, you will remain under the protection of the Martial Academy's rules." Only then did Yun Aokong and the others breathe a sigh of relief, feeling the sensation of cold sweat on their foreheads. "But all of you will report the location of your ancestral grounds," Ling Han added. What did this guy intend to do? He wouldn't charge towards their home bases, right? Why the delay? Ling Han glared at them. Yun Aokong and the others dared not say anything else, and quickly revealed the whereabouts of their respective clans. As a matter of fact, they couldn't believe it. Would Ling Han really dare to make a move against their clans? One ought to know that they were all heavenly Venerate level forces, and their background was extremely powerful. It wasn't something that a puny 8th heaven celestial king could even imagine. Once they had left, Amu and the others came over. "Junior brother Ling, it seems that you are stuck at a bottleneck before the 9th heaven." Du Shi spoke first. "I have been there. This level is very hard to describe. Some people have passed through it after tens of thousands of years, while there are others who still remain at the same level for millions and millions of years. Furthermore, the higher one's talent, the more difficult it is to break through. This is a sign that heaven and earth is targeting you." Ling Han nodded. Given heaven and earth's hindrance, of course it would be beset with difficulties. "We have also been stuck at the peak of the 9th heaven for too long. We intend to go to the burst cloud volcano for training. It is an absolutely dangerous place where danger lurks at every step. You can come with us. Perhaps you might find an opportunity for breakthrough." Amu spoke as well. Ling Han thought for a while. "When are you leaving?" "Just in the next few days." "Then you all can go ahead first. I still have some matters to deal with. Once I'm done, I'll meet up with all of you at the burst cloud volcano." "All right." Amu and the others took their leave, and Ling Han returned to his abode. He was planning his itinerary as he wanted to make a trip to visit the forces that had besieged him just now, and have them provide him with an explanation for this matter. So he was an easy target to bully, was he? The over 30 celestial kings came from a total of 9 forces. He believed that this was only a small part of the forces that had interfered with the black market chain of profits at the Celestial King graveyard. The other forces might have yet to come to settle accounts with Ling Han, or they had yet to make a move. Ling Han couldn't care less. He only knew that if anyone held out a knife to him, he would return the favor with his fist fiercely. A short while later, the large black dog arrived. "Brat, you are so powerful?" His eyes shone. "Just average," Ling Han replied, smiling. Was the divine demon sword really successful in upgrading? The large black dog almost couldn't believe it. Ling Han nodded. "That's right." "Great." The large black dog slapped his paws hard, and then showed a pitiful expression. "Heavenborn has gone to the realm battlefield. If not, we could go strike a staggering blow tonight." Ling Han laughed heartily. "There are heavenly Venerates in charge here. It is too difficult to do bad things under their noses. It's even better that he went to the realm battlefield. As long as we find him, we can do whatever we want." That's right. The large black dog nodded. Before that, let's go to settle some accounts, Ling Han said. Grandpa Dog likes that. The large black dog nodded happily. With whom are we settling the accounts? After hearing Ling Han list the names of each of the forces, the large black dog couldn't help but twitch. Grandpa Dog takes back what he's just said. You should go on your own as I seem to have diarrhea. These were all heavenly Venerate level forces. Who knew how terrifying their background could be? He definitely didn't want to go seeking death. It's all right. All the heavenly Venerates are at the realm battlefield. Besides, let's bring Wally with us, Ling Han said with a smile. Makes sense. The large black dog nodded. Wally's ability to break formations was the best. With him around, their safety would be greatly increased. They went to call on Wally. Wally was reluctant to go at first, but once Ling Han took out 3 pieces of divine metal, he agreed. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.